Introduction: the quantum mirror, beyond the skull. For centuries, humanity has been captive to one of the most persistent and limiting optical illusions of our evolutionary history: the firm belief that the mind is a solitary prisoner, locked forever in the dark and hermetic vault of the skull. Mechanistic science convinced us that our thoughts are mere accidental byproducts. They taught us that emotions are nothing more than chemical friction, simple electric sparks jumping between neurons in a closed system, biologically isolated from the rest of creation. We were taught, with implacable coldness, that the mind ends exactly where the skin ends, and that the outer universe is a vast ocean of dead matter. It was described as deaf and indifferent to our existence. But upon crossing the threshold of quantum physics, this reductionist vision completely crumbles. The mind is not a biological secretion of the brain. Just as a symphony is not a secretion of the musical instrument, your brain is the three-dimensional hardware. It is the intricate biological antenna of flesh, collagen, and structured water. But your mind is the electromagnetic field that tunes, receives, and transmits information. It is an invisible, omnipresent, and deeply creative force that extends and breathes far beyond the narrow confines of your skull. It is a field of potential. Welcome to the quantum mirror. The reality you experience daily, that which you consider dense, immutable, and entirely external, is in truth a reflective surface of astonishing precision. At a subatomic level, matter possesses no fixed form or predetermined destiny until it is observed. The universe is a fluctuating sea. It is a sea of infinite probabilities, waves of pure potential, awaiting the electromagnetic instruction of an observing consciousness to collapse into a physical and tangible experience. What you call the outside world is, in fact, the direct geometric projection of your inner topography. The universe does not happen to you. The universe responds to your frequency. However, the vast majority of human beings live submerged in a state of lethargy and cognitive sleepwalking. We have abdicated the throne of our own consciousness. We allow unprocessed traumas of the past, collective fear, and constant social programming to dictate our mind's frequency. We operate on a destructive autopilot. And by emitting these chaotic and dissonant frequencies of survival, the quantum mirror returns exactly that same image. A reality plagued by friction, scarcity, conflict, and disease. We have tragically become frightened victims within our own simulator, unaware of our power. The fundamental purpose of this journey is to provide you with the exact coordinates to exit this illusion. It is a call to an absolute inner rebellion, the awakening of the quantum architect. You are about to discover that you are not the helpless passenger of your life, but the master programmer of the source code. As we move forward, you will learn to dismantle the neural highways of stress, to tune your consciousness with the fluidity of living matter, and to use your focused intention to reorganize the very web of your three-dimensional reality. The hidden power of your mind has remained latent until this precise moment. It has been awaiting the instant you decide to stop reacting to the reflection to start directing the light. The time has come to reclaim your command. Use your will to rewrite the reflection and witness the transformation of the world around you as a result of your own inner shift. The mirror is ready for your true image. Chapter 1: The Geometry of Thought, Neuroplasticity and Design. For decades, classical neuroscience and Western medicine sentenced us to a biological prison. We were taught that the human brain was a static and rigid structure, a biological machine that, once past adolescence, fossilized. Under this bleak paradigm, the amount of neurons you entered adulthood with was all the cognitive capital you would have. From there, the only possible destination was decline, memory loss, and submission to inherited personality traits. You are how you are, and you cannot change, old-school science whispered to us. But the universe is infinitely more dynamic than our textbooks. The awakening of quantum physics has shattered this dogma forever. The arrival of vanguard neurosciences has also played a role. Today we know, with absolute measurable certainty, that the brain is not static hardware. It is living clay. It is an electrical and chemical ecosystem in a constant state of metamorphosis. sculpted second by second by the invisible chisel of your focused attention. This biological miracle is known as neuroplasticity. However, understanding that the brain is plastic is not enough. To abandon the state of spiritual latency and assume the throne of your own consciousness, you must understand how this plasticity is structured. You must understand that every thought you harbor is a physical event. A thought is not an ethereal cloud that disappears into the vacuum. It alters matter. It builds bridges, erects walls, and designs the topography of your three-dimensional reality. In this first chapter, we will explore the hidden architecture of your mind, discovering how repetition creates neuronal prisons and how to demolish them. 1. Neuronal highways, the traffic of survival. To understand the geometry of thought, we must first observe the anatomy of a mental habit. Your brain, that mass of barely 1.5 kilos floating in cerebrospinal fluid within your skull, houses approximately 86 billion neurons. Each has the capacity to connect with up to 10,000 other neurons through terminals called synapses. In 1949, neuropsychologist Donald Hebb postulated a law that would forever change our understanding of learning and memory. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Imagine your brain as an immense and dense virgin jungle. The first time you experience a new thought, it is like an explorer walking through the brush with a machete. The passage is difficult, slow, and requires a huge amount of metabolic energy. Electrical impulses jump the synaptic gap with great effort. But what happens if you walk that same path the next day? The brush is already a bit flattened. It is easier to travel. If you walk that path every day for a month or a year, it changes. That narrow path becomes a dirt road, then a paved street, and finally, an 8-lane superhighway. There, neuronal traffic travels at the speed of light, without resistance and without requiring conscious effort. This biological efficiency is an evolutionary marvel that allows us to perform tasks on autopilot, the trap of the familiar. However, this same law is the cell in which the vast majority of humanity lives, imprisoned. If during your childhood you faced an unpredictable environment, your brain built a path for anxiety and hypervigilance. If every time you feel stress, you react with victimhood, you are paving the highways of suffering. A point comes in adulthood where you no longer need a real, external reason to feel depressed or anxious. The simple fact of waking up in the morning automatically turns on the neuronal network of scarcity. You have built a geometry of thought based on survival. Your conscious matter has densified around fear. We call this the comfort zone, but it is one of the greatest ironies of human language. It is not comfortable at all. It is simply the zone of the familiar. The brain prefers known misery to the uncertainty of the vacuum, because traveling the highway of chronic suffering costs it less metabolic energy than a new path. To awaken the hidden power of the mind, the first step is raw and brutal self-observation. You must look at the map of your automatic reactions and recognize that you are not like that by nature. You have simply driven that highway so many times that you have confused the asphalt with your own identity and soul. 2. The collapse of old structures, synaptic pruning. If Hebb's law explains how mental prisons are built, it also gives us the quantum hammer to demolish them. The corollary of this law is equally relentless. Neurons that stop firing together wire apart. The human brain is the most ruthless and efficient energy manager in the known universe. It represents only 2% of your body weight, but consumes 20% of your energy. Therefore, it cannot afford to maintain infrastructures that are not used. If there is a neuronal highway that stops receiving traffic, the brain immediately sends a cellular demolition team to dismantle the synaptic connections. It recovers proteins and reuses those materials elsewhere. This biological process is called synaptic pruning. Here is where the application of deep spatial ordering comes into play, a true Feng dimension applied to the topography of your psyche. In architectural Feng Shui, you cannot just bring in new furniture to a room full of trash. In your cognitive architecture, you cannot just repeat positive affirmations for 5 minutes and expect your life to change if you spend the other 23 hours driving the neuronal highways of resentment, judgment, and lack. Energy collapses in the face of a lack of congruence. You must clear the space first. The art of dying daily. For old structures to collapse, you must apply the somatic and mental technology of the vacuum. You must starve obsolete programs of oxygen and attention. This requires what European philosophical traditions call the little death, the willingness to let the identity you have built around your pain die. When an external stimulus arises, a hurtful comment or a financial setback, your brain's autopilot will desperately try to route electricity toward the stress highway because it is easiest. You feel the physical urgency to get angry or complain. That urgency is chemical. It is your body asking for a dose of cortisol. It is in that precise millisecond, in the quantum gap between stimulus and reaction, where all your divine power resides. If you manage to stop, breathe deep, and not react, if you manage to observe the urgency to get angry without yielding to it, you are denying traffic to the highway of anger. You are taking away its voltage. You are applying the electromagnetic brake. The first time will feel like physical agony, like an overwhelming cognitive dissonance. But if you do it the second time and the 100th time, the jungle will begin to reclaim the asphalt. The synaptic connections of fear will dissolve. You are pruning the tree of your mind. You are clearing the clutter of your internal space so that the spirit can finally find an empty chamber in which to resonate. 3. Redesigning cognitive architecture, the quantum chisel. Once we have stopped traffic on the highways of spiritual latency and created the vacuum, we face the phase of active design. You are the architect, and your consciousness is the quantum chisel with which you will shape new matter. Self-directed neuroplasticity is the ability to intentionally hack your own hardware. It is the perfect union between contemplative mysticism and the most cutting-edge biological pragmatism. To sculpt new neuronal grooves that sustain genius, unshakable peace, and pure intuition, we need to use 3 fundamental tools: focused attention, mental rehearsal, and the magnetic charge of elevated emotion. A focused attention, the laser beam. Energy follows attention. Where you put your focus, you put your electricity. In the noisy modern environment, our attention is fragmented into thousands of pixels: mobile phones, news, future worries. This fragmented attention generates a chaotic, weak, and superficial neuronal network. To open a new path in the jungle, your mind must behave like a laser beam. You must regain control of your cognitive bandwidth. This is achieved through single-focus meditation. It is not about making the mind go blank, but about taming the wild beast of attention. By forcing focus on a single point, you fire neurons. You are sending a high-coherence electromagnetic signal that forces the physical matter of your brain to reorganize. Neurogenesis, the birth of new neurons in the hippocampus, accelerates exponentially when attention is sustained and deliberate. You are physically rebuilding the seat of your own intelligence. B. Mental rehearsal, the biological time machine. Here we discover one of the most beautiful and exploitable glitches of the human nervous system. Your brain does not know how to distinguish between a real experience in the outside world and a vividly imagined experience in the inside world. If you imagine cutting a juicy lemon, you will salivate instantly. You have altered your biology through an event that only existed in the quantum space of your mind. Elite athletes and pioneers of biophysics apply this principle daily through mental rehearsal. If you wish to build the neuronal network of abundance or perfect health, you must sit in stillness and rehearse. Repass mentally how you would walk, how you would breathe, and how you would make decisions if you were already in that state. By rehearsing the experience, the frontal lobe turns on and begins to connect neuronal circuits in new geometric configurations. You are installing the software before the physical event occurs. When the experience finally presents itself in your 3-dimensional life, your body will not react with fear or clumsiness, because biologically and neurologically, it has already been there hundreds of times. You have created the internal spatial mold so that external reality fits into it. See elevated emotion, the magnetic glue. Thought alone is not enough to redesign cognitive architecture. Thought is the language of the brain, but emotion is the language of the body. Thought sends the electrical signal, but it is emotion that generates the magnetic field that attracts the experience and seals the neuronal connection. If you mentally rehearse a future of peace, but your body still feels the chemistry of anxiety, there is a geometric dissonance. The mind emits one frequency, and the blood emits another. The universe does not respond to what you want. The universe responds to what you are. You must align the two. For neuroplasticity to occur quickly and permanently, you must combine clear intention with elevated emotion. You must feel gratitude or unconditional love before the event happens. High-frequency emotions act as the chemical fertilizer of your brain. They stimulate the secretion of BDNF, a magical protein. It acts as a magnetic glue, instantly consolidating new synaptic bridges and wrapping them in myelin, the insulating sheath that accelerates the transmission of electrical impulses. When you unite a clear mental vision with deep emotion, you are collapsing the probability wave in the quantum field. 4. Epigenetic restructuring and the end of determinism. The redesign of your cognitive architecture has ramifications that descend far below the cerebral cortex. The geometry of your thought is the master switch of your genetic code. The old paradigm taught us that DNA was the supreme dictator of our biological destiny. If you had the genes for a disease, you were doomed. But the science of epigenetics has shown that genes are simply passive architectural blueprints. The contractor who decides which plans are used is the cell's environment. And what is the immediate environment of your cells? Your blood. And what determines the chemical composition of your blood? Your thoughts. When you consciously design neuronal highways of security and gratitude, the brain orders the glands to release oxytocin, dopamine, and DHEA into the bloodstream. This chemical cocktail crosses the nuclear barrier and interacts directly with DNA. In this harmonic state, your body turns off genes of inflammation. It turns on the genes of longevity, cellular repair, and sovereign immunity. Literally, you are writing your own genetic code in real time. You are the engineer of your own evolution. If you allow your mind to wander in unconsciousness, yielding your power to automatic thoughts, you are a slave to genetics. You are condemned to repeat the biological and emotional history of your lineage. But by assuming the discipline of neuronal design, you break the chain of determinism. By turning your mind into an instrument of geometric precision, you raise the vibration of your entire lineage. Chapter 2. Reality Waves, the Dial of Your Consciousness. If you observe the world around you right now, your senses will present a very convincing argument. They will tell you that reality is solid, objective, and immovable. They will assure you that time moves in a relentless straight line from past to future and that you are a physical entity separate from the objects and people you see. This is the greatest and most persistent optical illusion of the human experience. Quantum physics has shown us that solidity is a mirage. At a subatomic level, the entire universe you perceive is nothing more than an immense and fluctuating energy field, vibrating at different frequencies. Nothing rests. Everything pulses constantly. If the universe is an infinite ocean of electromagnetic frequencies, your brain is not the creator of consciousness, but the most sophisticated transducer of creation. It acts exactly like an antenna or a radio receiver. You cannot listen to all radio stations simultaneously. You must turn the dial to tune into a specific frequency. The station you tune into will determine the music you hear. In the same way, the electromagnetic state of your brain, the brainwaves it emits in this millisecond, is the dial of your consciousness. The frequency at which your mind operates dictates which version of reality collapses before your eyes. You are the tuner of your own life. In this chapter, we are going to decode the mental electromagnetic spectrum. We will discover why we spend most of our lives tuned to the frequency of survival and stress, how to access the secret vault of the subconscious to reprogram our childhood, and how to invoke the spark of quantum genius that mystics have sought for millennia. It is time to stop being a broken radio that reproduces environmental noise and learn to turn the dial of conscious matter. 1. The mental electromagnetic spectrum, measuring the invisible. Every thought, every memory, and every emotion you experience is, at its purest foundation, an electrical event. When your neurons communicate, They exchange pulses of electricity. The sum of millions of these neurons firing simultaneously generates a massive electric field detected and measured by an electroencephalogram, EEG. This electrical activity travels in the form of waves. In wave physics, frequency is defined as the number of cycles, or oscillations, that occur in 1 second, and it is measured mathematically in hertz, Hertzdauers. The fundamental relationship between frequency, f-Dauers, and the time period, t-Dauers of a wave is expressed as Dref-Bechenfraktal. Depending on the level of arousal or relaxation of your nervous system, your brain produces different ranges of frequencies. These ranges are not simple medical curiosities. They are architectural signatures of reality. They are the filters through which you experience time, space, and your own identity within the quantum field. Science has categorized this spectrum into 5 main bands: delta, theta, alpha, beta, and gamma. Knowing them is to possess the user manual for your own holographic simulator. 2. The prison of beta and the illusion of time, 1330 Hz. For the vast majority of civilized humanity, the dial of consciousness is stuck and rusted in a single frequency, beta waves. Beta waves, between 13 and 30 cycles per second, are the state of normal wakefulness. It is the frequency of the analytical, logical, and conscious mind. When in beta, your attention is directed outward. You are processing sensory data, calculating distances, remembering your agenda, paying bills, and analyzing the behavior of others. Beta is not inherently negative. It is necessary for biological survival and for operating in the density of the 3D dimension. However, the modern world pushes us toward high-frequency beta, 20 to 30 Hz, the frequency of fear and separation. High beta state is the electromagnetic signature of stress, panic, and fight-or-flight mode. When your brain operates at this fast, jagged frequency, devastating phenomena occur. First, the tyranny of time. In high beta, the brain fragments reality. You perceive time as a threat. You feel chronically late and trapped by guilt. Second, the collapse of the internal Feng dimension. Your attention becomes obsessively narrow. Like a cornered animal, your consciousness reduces to focusing only on matter, your body, the environment, threats, and time, deadline for disaster. Energy stagnates. Creativity dies because the analytical brain rejects new data. Finally, the state of spiritual latency. In this frequency, the 2 brain hemispheres operate in total dissonance. You enter a state of incoherence. You try to control 3D matter using the brute force of matter, which generates immense emotional friction. High beta is an invisible prison convincing you that you are alone. To escape, the first step is not analyzing the problem. You cannot solve a problem at the same frequency that created it, but changing the dial. The bridge of alpha, the silence of the analyst, 813 Hz. If you wish to leave the tyranny of the outside world, you must cross the bridge to the interior. That electromagnetic bridge is alpha waves. Alpha waves oscillate between 8 and 13 Hz. It is the state of relaxed alertness and calm presence. Biologically, it is extremely simple to enter. Just close your eyes and breathe deep. By closing your eyes, you eliminate 80% of the sensory information bombarding your cerebral cortex. Brainwaves slow down instantly. The incessant voice of the internal critic, the obsessive beta analyst, begins to quiet down. Alpha is the flow state. You operate here when immersed in a book or a nature walk without a phone. The antechamber of the subconscious. In alpha, the illusion of separation begins to dissolve. The inner world of imagination and visualization becomes as real and vibrant as the outer world. It is the frequency of receptive neuroplasticity. Your analytical brain lowers its guard, allowing information to penetrate deeper realms without being blocked by beliefs. But alpha is just the hallway. To rewrite the geometry of your destiny, you must dare to descend to the basement. You must enter theta, or the theta state and the subconscious vault, 8 Hz. Theta waves oscillate between 4 and 8 Hz. It is the twilight realm. It occurs naturally twice a day, in the fleeting minutes before falling asleep and when waking up, when you don't quite know who or where you are. Theta is the frequency of the subconscious mind, the ocean controlling 95% of your behavior and biology, childhood programming and corrupt software. To understand Theta's power, look at the first 7 years of your life. Developmental neuroscience reveals that until age 7, a child's brain does not produce enough beta waves for analytical thought. Young children operate almost exclusively in alpha and theta. This means you were in a state of perpetual natural hypnosis. You had no analytical mind to filter info. Every word, behavior, or fear observed in your environment was recorded directly into your subconscious without security barriers. If you grew up with lack or insecurity, your mind recorded those as absolute truths. Today, those beliefs crystallized in your hardware sabotage your success. Hacking the source code. True transformation occurs by intentionally diving into theta without falling asleep. When you learn to keep the body asleep but the mind awake, yoga nidra, you access the engine room. In theta, the brain is infinitely malleable. Neuronal highways of trauma lose their rigidity, allowing for radical redesign. If you visualize a future of peace or health while in theta, the subconscious accepts it as a new reality without resistance. You start rewriting the corrupt software of your childhood. You stop being a victim of early programming and assume the role of master programmer of your conscious matter and biological reality. 5. The restorative void of delta, 0.54 Hz. Deeper than theta, we find the slow and majestic delta waves, 0.5 to 4 Hz. This is the frequency of dreamless deep sleep. In delta, personal consciousness and the ego disappear completely. It is the temporary death of identity. Here, the conscious mind shuts off so innate intelligence can take absolute control. It is the state where the greatest cellular regeneration occurs, with a massive release of growth hormone and cerebral cleaning. Delta is the quantum void of the mind. It is the necessary reset where the observer merges with the unified field to recharge pure energy before fragmenting back into matter at dawn. 6. The gamma spark, the frequency of divinity, 100 plus Hz. What exists at the other end of the dial? What is the frequency of enlightenment and instant intuition? For a long time, science ignored frequencies above 30 Hz as noise. Today we know gamma waves are the pinnacle of human experience. They vibrate from 30 to over 100 Hz, produced by a hypersynchronized brain. Quantum hypersynchronization. Normally, different parts of your brain process info in isolation. But during gamma, millions of neurons across the brain synchronize and fire exactly at the same time. The entire brain operates as a single, perfectly tuned instrument. The gamma spark is that aha moment where complex problems are solved instantly. It is the state of virtuosos, the undeniable intuition of a coming event, and the signature of advanced meditators experiencing unconditional compassion. In gamma, the illusion of time and space collapses. You process information from the quantum field at speeds the analytical mind simply cannot comprehend. It is in the gamma frequency where spontaneous healings occur. When the brain reaches this hypercoherence, it sends a massive signal to the nervous system, instantly restructuring cell chemistry and aligning conscious matter with the original blueprint of perfect health. Gamma is divinity experienced within the flesh. 7. Tuning the dial, practical modulation technologies. Human suffering lies in the inability to move the dial. We are radios stuck in the high beta frequency of fear, receiving constant static. But you possess the geometric authority to alter your electromagnetic state at will. You must become the acoustic engineer of your own brain. Here are 3 direct technologies. A brainwave entrainment, the acoustic tuning fork. The human brain has a biophysical tendency to synchronize with dominant external frequencies, frequency following response. You can use binaural beats or isochronic tones designed for theta, 4 to 8 Hz, to create an acoustic fork in your ears. Sound acts as a forced bridge, slowing your brain rhythm. B. Cardiorespiratory coherence, the vagus brake. The heart sends more neurological signals to the brain than it receives. When anxiety drags you to high beta, close your eyes and slow your breathing to 6 breaths per minute, 5s in, 5s out. This forces the vagus nerve to activate, ordering the heart and brain to enter coherent alpha waves in minutes. See sensory void, deprivation for expansion. Ordinary consciousness is kept accelerated by sensory data. To reach gamma or theta, you must create a vacuum, use total darkness meditation or noise cancellation. By depriving the cortex of external food, the brain turns inward. In this void, the pineal gland activates and neuroplasticity becomes exponential. Chapter 3. Mental Epigenetics, the thought that writes DNA. During most of the 20th century, science held us hostage to one of the most paralyzing dogmas ever conceived, genetic determinism. We were taught that DNA was the absolute dictator of our biological destiny. If your family tree had a history of heart disease, depression, or cancer, it was assumed you carried a microscopic time bomb. The underlying message of traditional biology was dark and desolate. You are a victim of your heritage, a mere passenger in a vehicle of flesh whose coordinates were programmed generations before you were born. Under this paradigm, the mind was considered a helpless ghost, unable to alter the solid, cold machinery of genetics. The entire humanity sank into a deep spiritual latency, yielding its power to the Russian roulette of DNA strands. However, at the beginning of the 21st century, the Human Genome Project yielded a result that shook the foundations of mechanistic biology. Scientists expected to find more than 100,000 genes to explain human complexity. They found barely 20,000, almost the same amount as a microscopic worm. This revelation forced an inevitable question. If we do not possess enough genes to explain our complexity, what really controls us? The answer gave birth to the greatest revolution in the history of science and spirituality, epigenetics. Literally above genetics, this science demonstrates that genes do not turn themselves on or off. They are simple architectural blueprints. The master contractor who decides which plans are read and which are ignored is the environment. And in the human being, the cellular environment is dictated absolutely by one factor, your perception. In this third chapter, we are going to destroy the myth of the genetic victim. We will explore the amazing chemical cascade that translates an invisible thought into a tangible molecule. We will discover that the placebo effect is not a mental trick, but the supreme demonstration of your internal technology. We will learn to use the conscious mind to rewrite the source code of our own matter. 1. Mind over matter, the end of the genetic dictatorship. To understand how a thought can alter a gene, we must first redefine the anatomy of the cell. For years, we believed the nucleus, where DNA resides, was the brain of the cell. But if you remove the nucleus from a cell, it does not die immediately. It remains alive, moving and interacting with its environment for months. The only thing it cannot do is divide or manufacture new proteins, because it has lost its library of manuals. If the nucleus is just the library, where is the brain? The true brain of your 37 trillion cells is the cell membrane. This very thin outer layer is a liquid crystal composed of phospholipids that functions as a microchip. The membrane is embedded with thousands of receiving antennas that constantly scan the environment for signals. And what is the direct environment of your cells? Your blood. The interstitial fluid and blood plasma are the universe in which your cells float. If blood is the environment that tells the cell what to do, we must ask, who controls the chemical composition of the blood? The answer takes us back to the quantum mirror of the mind. Your brain acts as the master apothecary. Depending on how you interpret reality, through the filter of your beliefs, your fears, or your gratitude, your brain releases a specific mix of hormones and neuropeptides into the blood. If you see the world as a hostile and terrifying place, your brain floods your blood with cortisol and adrenaline. If you see the world with wonder, security, and love, your brain floods your blood with oxytocin, dopamine, and growth hormone. The cell is blind to the outside world. It only knows what the blood tells it, and the blood tells it exactly what your mind is thinking. Your perception, your consciousness, is the supreme architect that stands above your genetics. 2. The chemical cascade of belief. Let us travel through the anatomy of a thought to witness the miracle of how the immaterial becomes flesh. How is it that an abstract idea manages to penetrate the nucleus of a cell and unwind a strand of DNA? This process is the literal manifestation of conscious matter. It occurs through a cascade of events, the quantum spark. Everything begins in the electromagnetic field of the mind. An intention or belief collapses the wave function and generates a specific frequency in your brain. The hypothalamic translation: this electromagnetic wave travels to the hypothalamus, which takes the vibrational energy and translates it into neuropeptides. Neuropeptides are small chains of amino acids that act as chemical messengers. There is a specific neuropeptide for every human emotion, one for anger, one for sadness, one for ecstasy. The journey through liquid light. The pituitary gland releases these neuropeptides into the bloodstream. These molecules travel through your veins. Membrane coupling. Neuropeptides reach the periphery of a cell and fit like a perfect key into the lock of the cell membrane receptors. The epigenetic order. As the key turns, the membrane sends an electrical signal through the cytoplasm directly to the cell nucleus, rewriting the code. Inside the nucleus, the DNA is wrapped in a sheath of proteins called histones. The electrical signal orders the histones to unwind. The gene is exposed, read, copied, and sent to the cell factory to build a new protein. You have physically changed your body with a single thought. If your mind chronically repeats thoughts of victimhood and despair, you are ordering the genes of inflammation and premature aging to unwind. But if you sustain thoughts of gratitude and vitality, the chemical cascade orders the unwinding of the genes of longevity and telomere repair. Your ADN is not a sentence, it is a keyboard. 3. The cellular environment and the Feng dimension. By understanding this chemical cascade, the ancient science of spatial harmonization acquires a revolutionary meaning. In classic architecture, the Feng dimension teaches us that a cluttered space with stagnant flow rots the energy of its inhabitants. Your bloodstream is the space in which your cells live. When you allow yourself to ruminate on the past, clinging to unforgiven traumas, you are contaminating the atmosphere of your own inner temple. You are filling the corridors of your circulation with the acidic mist of cortisol. In this toxic environment, cells enter survival mode. In survival mode, the cell closes. It stops absorbing nutrients, halts repair processes, and slows down toxin elimination. It simply prepares for impact. When trillions of cells close simultaneously due to a hostile blood environment created by your own mind, you experience physical illness and chronic exhaustion. To restore health, it is not enough to bomb the cell with supplements if the primary epigenetic signal remains fear. You must apply the Feng dimension to your psyche. You must clean the cellular environment by altering the quality of your thoughts. When you introduce silence and cardiac coherence, you alter your blood. 4. The placebo effect, the quantum technology of belief. If we need irrefutable proof that the mind writes the destiny of the body, we only have to look at the most misunderstood phenomenon of modern medicine, the placebo effect. For decades, the pharmaceutical industry has treated the placebo effect as a nuisance. They must prove a drug works better than a sugar pill. If a percentage of patients is cured taking only the sugar pill, doctors usually dismiss it by saying, "Oh, it was just their imagination." Let us stop for a moment before the magnitude of this. If a person with a bleeding ulcer or clinical depression takes a pill with no active ingredients and heals, the cure did not come. The cure did not come from the pill. The pill was only a symbol. The healing came from the person's internal apothecary. The placebo effect is not just imagination. It is mental epigenetics in its purest expression. When the patient accepts the belief, "This pill will cure me," that belief collapses the quantum wave. The brain translates that thought into a cascade of healing neuropeptides. The mind literally manufactures the exact chemicals the pill supposedly contained. The placebo proves you have the most advanced pharmacy in the universe installed within your own nervous system. It is your inherent biological technology. The nocebo, when the mind kills. But this quantum sword cuts in both directions. Just as positive belief can cure the incurable, negative belief can destroy the healthy. This is called the nocebo effect. If a doctor gives a terminal diagnosis and the patient accepts it as an absolute sentence, their biology will align with that instruction. Terror and hopelessness will flood the blood, turning off the immune system and turning on the genes of programmed cell death. Many patients die exactly in the time frame predicted by the doctor, not because of the disease, but because the belief dictated the cessation of vital functions. Voodoo is not black magic on a remote island. Voodoo is someone giving you a terminal label and you giving control of your epigenetics to that label. The hidden power of your mind has no morality. It simply executes the program you order it to believe. If you assume your identity as an architect, you heal. 5. Hacking the source code, mental epigenetics practices. Transformation demands somatic action. You cannot change old subconscious beliefs simply by saying, "I am healthy," for 5 minutes if you spend the next 15 hours emitting the frequency of fear. We must teach the body, chemically and emotionally, how the future feels before it happens. Here are the 3 master methodologies to hack your genetic source code. A. The epigenetic rehearsal, the future in the present. Your cells do not know the difference between an emotion from an external event and one manufactured by pure intention. The practice. Sit in silence. Lower the dial to alpha or theta. Select a vision of what you wish to embody. Associate an elevated emotion to that image. Feel overwhelming gratitude or ecstatic joy in your chest as if the event had already occurred. You are signaling your genes ahead of time. B. Interrupting the self-inflicted nocebo. The greatest leak of your quantum energy comes from unconscious mental chatter. The practice. Become a ruthless auditor of your internal dialogue. Every time you catch yourself thinking, "I am going to get sick," or "my genetics are terrible," interrupt yourself immediately. Use a physical anchor like snapping your fingers. Then pivot to, "What if my body could regenerate right now?" See frequency congruence, the vortex of transformation. The mind cannot convince the body if the body is trapped in mechanical stress. The practice. Before reprogramming your mind, align the hardware. Use intermittent fasting to clean the plasma of toxins, empty space. Use somatic spiral movement to loosen fascial knots. Once the physical body feels light and blood flows without friction, then apply the epigenetic rehearsal. Chapter 4. The Psychic Basement, Decoding the Shadow. Up to this point in our journey, we have spoken of the mind as if it were an instrument that you possess in its entirety. We have explored how your conscious thoughts sculpt the neuroplasticity of your brain, how you can tune the dial of your electromagnetic waves, and how your beliefs rewrite your DNA code through epigenetics. All this immense power grants you the crown of the quantum architect. However, there is an uncomfortable and radical truth that we must face before we can fully claim the throne. You are not in charge of your own house. If we compare your psyche to an immense and majestic palace, your conscious mind is just a tiny flashlight. The voice in your head that reads these words, makes weekend plans, and decides what to eat is barely 5% of your existence. The other 95% of who you are, what you believe, what you fear, and how you react dwells in the depths, in the immense underground galleries that you rarely visit. Welcome to the psychic basement. In deep psychology, this vast subterranean realm is known as the subconscious mind, and the darkest corners of this basement house, what Carl Jung called the shadow. In this 4th chapter, we are going to turn on the lights in that basement. We will discover that trauma and self-sabotage are not weaknesses of your character. Instead, they are survival programs, corrupt software, operating in the dark. We will learn how the universe acts as a relentless mirror that forces you to face what you have repressed, and I will give you the technologies to integrate your shadow, transmuting dense fear into the creative fuel of your conscious matter. 1. The anatomy of the subconscious, the invisible 95%. To understand the magnitude of the illusion of control, we must speak of numbers and processing capacity. Biology and neuroscience offer us a humbling but necessary perspective on our own cognitive architecture. Your conscious mind, the frontal lobe, the analytical intellect, is astonishingly slow in its function. It processes information at a speed of approximately 40 to 50 bits per second. It is sequential. It can only focus on 1 or 2 things at a time. Your subconscious mind, on the other hand, is a massive quantum supercomputer. It processes information at an estimated speed of 40 million bits per second. While your conscious mind is reading this line of text, your subconscious is regulating your heartbeat, adjusting your body temperature, filtering millions of toxins through your liver, and maintaining your gravitational posture. Most critically, it is filtering reality through the immense archive of all memories. It uses every trauma and belief you have accumulated since you were in the womb. If the conscious mind is the captain of the ship, the subconscious mind is the entire crew, the engine room, the rudder, and the hull. The captain may shout, "Turn right toward abundance and peace," but the crew has other orders. If they have old fire-etched orders stating that peace is dangerous because if you relax you are attacked, the ship will irremediably turn toward the left, toward conflict and chaos. This is the origin of modern human suffering. We become frustrated because we try to change our lives using only 5% of our power. We try to think positively, repeat affirmations, and read self-help books, but we feel a brutal and invisible resistance that drags us back to the same patterns of self-sabotage, the same toxic relationships, and the same chronic illnesses. That resistance is not a punishment. It is your subconscious doing its job. 2. Trauma as corrupt software. To decode the basement, we must understand how the programs operating there were installed. We must redefine our understanding of trauma. In colloquial language, we usually think of trauma as a catastrophic event, a war, a car accident, or a devastating loss. But in the psyche, trauma is something else. In the anatomy of the psyche and quantum biology, trauma is not what happens to you. Trauma is what gets stuck inside you as a result of what happens to you. As we saw in the chapter on reality waves, during the first 7 years of your life, your brain operated predominantly in theta waves. You were a recorder. You were an active tape recorder without an analytical filter to protect you. When you experienced situations where you felt unprotected, humiliated, ignored, or scared, even if those situations seemed harmless to an adult, like a parent's stern look, your nervous system was pushed to the limit of its capacity. A child does not have the cognitive tools to rationalize, "My father is shouting at me because he had a bad day at work." The child, in their egocentric state of survival, concludes, "He is shouting at me because I am bad. I am unworthy of love. I am not safe." This conclusion becomes a permanent file. The archive and fragmentation. When an emotion is too overwhelming to be processed at the moment, somatic intelligence does something brilliant to ensure your survival. It fragments the experience. It takes the memory, the boiling emotion, and the pain, wraps them in a dense electromagnetic package, and throws them into the psychic basement. Then it creates a software patch, a behavioral rule to ensure you never feel that pain again. If I show myself as I really am, I am rejected. Therefore, the new program is, be a people pleaser, have no voice of my own, and make everyone around me happy. This becomes a lifelong survival strategy. If I stand out, I am attacked. Therefore, the new program is, keep myself small, sabotage my own success, and do not draw attention. These programs were lifesavers when you were 5 years old. The problem is that now you are 30, 40, or 50, and those same programs are still running. They are operating in the background, consuming your vital energy. They are corrupt software. They are outdated, consuming all the RAM of your nervous system and emitting a low vibration frequency that interferes with your epigenetics and cellular geometry. What you have stored in the basement is your shadow. 3. The dynamics of projection, the quantum mirror in action. The law of conservation of energy dictates that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It is only transformed. What you repress does not disappear. The shadow is alive. It breathes, it has a pulse, and most importantly, it possesses an immense electromagnetic charge that interacts with the field. If you have a psychic basement full of repressed anger because you weren't allowed to be angry in childhood, that densified anger generates a magnetic field. And here is where the internal Feng dimension collides with external reality. What you cannot integrate within you, the universe will force you to face. The universe obliges you to face it by projecting it onto others. This phenomenon is known as projection. It is the most common and destructive defense mechanism of the subconscious mind. Since the conscious ego cannot bear the idea of possessing those horrible traits, it projects them outward. If your shadow contains repressed selfishness, you will be surrounded by selfish people who drive you crazy. They will irritate you in a disproportionate way because they are acting exactly like the part of you that you have chained in the basement. They are reflecting your own hidden frequency. If your shadow contains repressed vulnerability and the need for care, you will feel constantly attracted to emotionally unavailable or cold partners, repeating the cycle of abandonment so that, at some point, you are forced to look at your own pain. The 3D world is a holographic mirror of your basement, while the tyrannical boss, the unfaithful partner, the treacherous friend, or the unjust society are not separate from you. Quantumly, they are responding to the frequency your shadow is emitting. You attract what you fear and what you judge with the same magnetic force with which you attract what you love. Understanding the dynamics of projection is the death blow to victimhood. It means that no one is doing anything to you. The universe, in its infinite compassion and efficiency, is simply showing you the fragmented pieces of your own soul so that you can reclaim them and become whole once again. Or the biological cost of repressing the shadow. Keeping the basement door closed requires a monumental amount of energy. Trying to be a perfect person, hiding your primary instincts, visceral fears, and historical pain, is the biological equivalent of trying to keep dozens of beach balls submerged under water at the same time. You can't win. Sooner or later, your arms will get tired. At a physiological level, repressing the shadow is keeping the body in a state of low-grade chronic stress. Your nervous system must keep the fascial network tense, the somatic armor, to prevent those emotions from rising. Your jaw tightens while you sleep. Your shoulders rise toward your ears, and your breathing becomes shallow. As we explored in the geometry of thought, this chronic tension activates the cortisol pathway. Inflammation takes over your tissues. Blood clumps. Spiritual latency sets in because your energy is being wasted. The energy you should use to repair cells, expand consciousness, and create your dream life is being used exclusively to guard the door of the psychic basement. The chronic exhaustion suffered by modern humans is rarely from a lack of sleep. It is the psychic exhaustion of holding up a mask. When the pressure in the basement reaches a critical point and the body can no longer contain the energy, the shadow explodes. This manifests as an unprovoked panic attack, an explosive tantrum of destructive anger, the sudden sabotage of a perfect relationship, or the development of an autoimmune disease. Illuminating the shadow, the alchemy of integration. If repressing the shadow makes us sick and keeps us in spiritual latency, the only way out is descent. We must become speleologists of our own psyche. Integrating the shadow does not mean becoming a bad person, nor giving free rein to destructive impulses. It is not about surface-level positive thinking. True psychic alchemy is a profound biological and emotional process. It means descending into the basement, turning on the light, looking the monsters in the eye, and discovering they are not monsters at all. They are terrified children. They are parts of your life force that remained frozen in time, for when you integrate the shadow, you recover the energy tied to it. Transmuted fear becomes sharp vigilance. Repressed anger, once freed of its destructive charge, becomes radical determination and power to set healthy boundaries. Uncried sadness, when it flows, opens the chest and becomes empathy. Integrating the psychic basement is the supreme act of cleaning your internal Feng dimension. It is clearing the space so that your illuminated blood can circulate without crashing into phantom blockages. You are reclaiming the lost territory of your soul and returning it to the light of consciousness. 6. Somatic and quantum technologies to decode the shadow. Shadow work cannot be done solely by analyzing the past with the conscious mind. Beta. Trying to think your way out of a subconscious trauma is like trying to open a titanium safe with a toothpick. Trauma is not just in the mind, it is stuck in the body, in the fascia, and in blood chemistry. Below, I give you 3 integrated technologies to hack your shadow's code, freeing the corrupt software directly from the operating system of your conscious matter. A. Somatic tracking, locating the knot. The shadow rarely speaks in logical words, it communicates through dense physical sensations. The practice: The next time someone triggers you when you feel disproportionate rage or paralyzing fear, stop. Close your eyes. Do not analyze the other person. Ask yourself where you feel it. Perhaps it's a knot in the stomach or pressure in the chest. The geometry. You have moved energy from the analytical mind to somatic reality. That sensation is the exact location of the corrupt file. By bringing your laser attention to that area without judgment, you unwind the trauma. B. Radical dialogue, negotiating with the protector. We must treat basement programs with deep respect because they were created to protect you. The practice. In deep meditation, alpha waves, focus on the pattern of self-sabotage you wish to dismantle. Imagine that program as a separate entity or as your younger self. Ask it what it fears. Listen to the first answer, then say, "Thank you for keeping me safe all these years. You are free to let go of that burden. I am the adult now, and I will handle it." The chemical effect. By validating the protector's intent, you reduce resistance. The amygdala relaxes. You rewrite the path. C-theta recontextualization, rewriting the timeline. Since the subconscious is an uncritical recorder in theta state, 4-8 Hz, you must use this frequency to uninstall the program. The practice. Just before falling asleep or upon waking, choose the root painful memory. Visualize it not as a victim, but as a director. Enter the scene as your current self. Observe the younger version of you, embrace them, pull them away from danger, and say, "It's not your fault. You are safe. You are loved." The quantum effect. Because the brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined experience, you erase the electromagnetic footprint of the original trauma. 7. The end of the internal civil war. As long as you reject the darkest, most wounded parts of yourself, you will live in a constant internal civil war. A war where 5% of your consciousness fights uselessly against 95% of your immense subconscious ocean. In this war, there are no winners, only systemic inflammation and disease. The shadow is not evil. It is simply unprocessed life. It is densified vital energy, desperately waiting for the king or queen of the castle to go down to the basement with a torch of unconditional acceptance. When you embrace your demons, you discover they were never demons. They were fierce guardians. They were guardians who had forgotten that the war ended long ago. By integrating them, you recover hidden treasure, radical authenticity, overflowing creativity, and a massive amount of energy that becomes available to build the future you desire. You no longer project your fears onto others. The quantum mirror of the outside world stops showing you conflicts and begins to return synchronicities. You become a whole, unfragmentable, and magnetic being. You are the master of your house, and every room is filled with light. Chapter 5. The Trinity of Intelligence, Brain, Heart, and Gut. Since the dawn of the scientific revolution and the age of enlightenment, Western civilization has knelt before a single despotic monarch, the intellect. The famous maxim of philosopher René Descartes, "I think, therefore I am," became the gospel of modernity. Under this paradigm, humans were reduced to a thinking brain in a skull. This brain operated the rest of the body as if it were a simple machine of flesh, a clumsy mechanical vehicle designed exclusively to transport the head from one place to another. This disproportionate exaltation of the logical mind gave us technology and industry. But the price we paid in our internal architecture was devastating. We disconnected from our somatic compass. We turned our physical avatar into a silent slave, and in doing so, rushed into an era of chronic anxiety and spiritual latency. Quantum physics and neurocardiology are here to overthrow this monopoly. Your consciousness is not a solitary prisoner. Intelligence is not exclusive to gray matter. You are an infinitely more sophisticated ecosystem. Your body is conscious matter in its entirety. To navigate the immense holographic simulator of reality, the universe has endowed you with not one, but 3 processing centers. You possess a trinity of intelligence: the logical brain, the intuitive heart, and the instinctive gut. In this chapter, we will dismantle the dictatorship of analytical thought. We will explore how each of these 3 brains perceives the world and stores memories, we will discover the superhighway that connects them. Mastery, the state of absolute flow, is only reached when logic, intuition, and instinct vibrate in unbreakable harmony. 1. The end of the cerebral monopoly, the distributed network. To understand our triune intelligence, we must first demystify the cranial brain. The brain in your head is an evolutionary marvel of 86 billion neurons. It is the center of intellect and logical analysis. Its primary function is translation and survival through prediction. It compares the present with the past to predict the future. But here lies its limitation. The cranial brain is a linear processor. It is inherently tied to the illusion of time. It is not designed to experience the quantum now, nor equipped to perceive raw vibrational truth. It always filters reality through historical trauma. When you give it 100% authority, you become a prisoner of rumination. The Feng dimension of your inner space collapses when energy stagnates in the head. The vital flow, qi, rises and accumulates in the skull, leaving you ungrounded. You become a pendulum swinging between regret for yesterday and anxiety for tomorrow. To awaken, the brain must abdicate its absolute throne and accept its true role. 2. The somatic brain, the visceral wisdom of the gut. Move your attention down to the dark, warm, and winding center of your abdomen. Here resides your original brain. Long before a prefrontal cortex existed, primitive organisms needed a network to distinguish what was safe and nutritious from what was toxic. That primordial system developed in the digestive tract. Modern biology calls this the enteric nervous system, ENS. It is an amazing neurological matrix containing over 500 million neurons. It is so vast that if the connection to the cranial brain were cut, your gut would continue to function independently. The gut is your instinctive brain, the biological residence of visceral intuition, the alchemy of the microbiome and emotions. But your gut's intelligence doesn't end with human neurons. Inside dwells a symbiotic civilization, the microbiome. You have about 39 trillion bacteria, viruses, and fungi. These are quantum sensors. Shockingly, the gut produces 95% of your serotonin and 50% of your dopamine. The pharmacy of your mood is in your viscera. From the perspective of sacred geometry, the gut represents the earth element. It is the physical border between the material world and your identity. The gut brain doesn't think in words. Its language is physical contraction and expansion. Before the analytical brain processes data, your gut has already scanned the frequency. 3. The magnetic brain, the toroidal oscillator of the heart. We need a quantum bridge to unite the intellect and instinct. We need a center of gravity that governs through resonance. That center is the heart. As we discovered, the heart is a vortex engine. Beyond its pumping, it possesses its own neurology. Dr. Andrew Armour discovered the little brain in the heart. It is a network of about 40,000 sensory neurites. The heart is not a servant. It has its own intrinsic nervous system. It learns, remembers, and feels independently. Contemporary studies show more nerve fibers sending info from the heart to the brain than vice versa. The emperor sends decrees to the prime minister, not the other way. Pure intuition and quantum field access. If the gut's language is survival, the heart's language is compassion and pure intuition. The heart is the most powerful satellite dish of your biological avatar. HeartMath Institute experiments show the heart reacts to images 4 to 5 seconds before they appear on a screen. The heart knows the future through the quantum field. This is the true latency you must free yourself from. When your heart is closed by resentment or fascial armor, your electromagnetic field atrophies. But when you achieve cardiac coherence, you navigate life illuminated by the radiant certainty of your own liquid light. You tune into the universal field of information. 4. The vagus nerve, the superhighway of conscious matter. For an empire to thrive, capitals must be connected by fluid routes. In your interior, this superhighway is the vagus nerve. From the Latin for wanderer, it starts in the brainstem, wraps the heart and lungs, and embraces your digestive tract. It is the fiber optic cable of your internal Feng dimension. The magic lies in its directionality. Between 80% and 90% of its fibers are afferent. This means its main job is to carry info about your viscera and heart upward to the cerebral cortex. The brain cannot make a single balanced decision without consulting the weather report that the vagus nerve delivers every millisecond. Vagal tone and geometric resilience. High vagal tone, high heart rate variability, means your nervous system is elastic and safe. Info travels freely without bottlenecks. In this state, you are fluid and unshakable, but under chronic trauma, vagal tone collapses, the highway closes, the brain becomes isolated, creating panic loops. This is internal war. 5. Alignment of the three centers, the absolute flow state. The root of our exhaustion is using our trinity of intelligence like three horses pulling in opposite directions. The logical brain says, keep the job for money. The instinctive gut says, this environment is toxic. And the intuitive heart says, our vocation is art. This misalignment collapses your vital energy. Biological enlightenment occurs when you align these three vectors toward the same horizon. When the gut feels safe, instinct, the heart radiates passion, intuition, and the brain provides the strategy, intellect, you enter zero friction. Decisions become effortless. Procrastination disappears. You become unstoppable. 6. Somatic technologies for trinity tuning. We cannot force alignment through reason alone. We must use biological keys, acoustic vibration, earth chemistry, and volumetric breathing. Here is the protocol to restore peace to your interior geography. A. The vagal reset, basic tone vibration. The vagus nerve passes directly behind the throat. The practice. Upon waking, or during anxiety, sit in silence. Inhale deep. On the exhale, emit a very low and sustained U or O sound for 5 minutes. The effect. This vibration massages the vagal trunk, stopping the fear contraction and clearing the mental static. T. Frequency nutrition, healing the intestinal earth. Refined sugar and pesticides destroy your internal forest. The practice. Approach eating as repopulating your living matter. Introduce fermented foods like sauerkraut or kefir. The effect. Restoring your microbiome allows the gut to produce optimal serotonin. The somatic brain stops sending fire alarms to the head. C. Tricoherence meditation, the master axis. The practice. Lie down. Focus on the gut. Breathe there and mentalize I am safe. Move to the heart. Breathe through the chest and mentalize I confide in my intuition. Move to the brain. Focus behind the brow and mentalize my mind is clear. Visualize a pillar of light uniting all 3 points for 10 minutes. The shared throne and the quantum leap. Dismantling the monopoly of the intellect is a powerful act of humility. You cannot think your way out of problems. You must feel and vibrate to overcome them. You are a 3D being guided by a triune intelligence. When the three kings are awake, you become a cohesive universe. Interior harmony was designed so you could mold external matter to your conscious will. Your trinity of intelligence is the instrument for molding reality itself. Chapter 6. The Magnetism of Intention, Collapsing the Quantum Wave. In our immersion through the anatomy of your consciousness, we have assembled the pieces of a colossal puzzle. We have learned to prune the old neuronal highways of pain, descended into the depths of theta waves to hack childhood programming, understood how perception physically rewrites our DNA, and unified the trinity of our intelligence. Your internal geography has ceased to be a fragmented battlefield to become a vibrant, aligned, and sovereign ecosystem. But all this majestic internal harmony, this supreme level of biological and psychological order, leads us to the ultimate frontier. So far, we have spoken of how to heal and transform your inner universe. In this chapter, we're going to cross the threshold toward the outer universe. It is time to answer the fundamental question of human existence. Can the energy you generate inside your body alter the events, synchronicities, and matter you experience outside of it? The answer, backed by the vanguard of quantum physics, is a resounding yes. You are not a passive observer sitting in the audience of the cosmic theater. You are the projector. In this chapter, we will dismantle the commercial and superficial version of the law of attraction to delve into the true biophysics of manifestation. We will discover how your thought emits an electrical charge. We will see how your emotion generates a magnetic field, and how the union of both collapses the infinite wave of quantum possibilities into the solid matter of your destiny. 1. The fallacy of positive thinking and vibrational truth. At the beginning of the 21st century, popular culture was flooded by an avalanche of self-help literature that promised the key to the universe under a temptingly simple premise. Think positive, and you will attract positive things. Millions began repeating affirmations in front of the mirror, cutting out photos of mansions. They forced themselves to smile at adversity, hoping the cosmos would deliver the life of their dreams. For the vast majority, the result was a crushing failure. And that failure did not happen because the universe was deaf, but because the universe does not speak the language of human vocabulary. The universe is electromagnetic. It communicates exclusively through frequency and resonance. Mechanically repeating, "I am abundant," while your nervous system operates in high beta frequency, while your gut is contracted by fear, and while your fascial network is tense from unresolved trauma, is the equivalent of trying to put out a forest fire with gasoline. There is a profound geometric dissonance. Your analytical brain, 5% of your consciousness, is emitting a desire, but your physical body, your blood, and your subconscious, 95%, are emitting the frequency of terror and lack. In quantum physics, the strongest signal always wins. The fraud of scarcity. The great error of popular manifestation is that it operates from the premise of lack. When you desperately desire something, the act of desiring it from urgency is communicating an implacable truth to the quantum field. I do not have it. Need is a vibration of absence. It is an electromagnetic frequency that declares a void. And since the quantum mirror of reality is of millimetric precision, it returns exactly the image of what you are emitting. More absence, more need, more void. To collapse the quantum wave and materialize a new reality, you must abandon magical thinking. You must enter the laboratory of your own conscious matter. 2. Electrical thought, magnetic emotion. To become architects of external reality, we must master the two fundamental forces of the universe, electricity and magnetism. In your biological avatar, these two forces have very specific anatomical generators. The brain is the electrical generator. Every time you formulate a clear thought, your networks fire an electrical charge. Your analytical brain acts as the architect drawing the blueprints. Thought provides directionality, intention, and the details of what you want to experience. It is the signal you send toward the quantum field. However, a blueprint is not a building. It has no mass. Thought alone cannot attract experience. It travels to the ether. The heart is the magnetic generator. As we explored in the chapter on the torus, the human heart is the most powerful electromagnetic oscillator in the body. Its magnetic field is up to 5,000 times stronger than the brain's. While the brain emits the idea, the heart generates gravity. Emotion is energy in motion. Elevated emotions, gratitude, appreciation, reverence, unconditional love, and freedom generate a magnetic field of high coherence and massive attraction. Here lies the ultimate secret of human alchemy. Thought sends the signal. Emotion attracts the event. When you unite a clear intention with an elevated emotion, you change. You create a new electromagnetic signature. You become a coherent transmission antenna. You are no longer asking from lack. You are transmitting the frequency of realization. Think of gratitude. In our biological culture, we are conditioned to feel gratitude after something good happens to us. Therefore, in the language of quantum biology, the electromagnetic signature of gratitude means the event has already occurred. If you are able to evoke deep and unconditional gratitude for a reality that has not yet physically manifested, your body believes the event is already a fait accompli. You are sending the supreme quantum signal. You are forcing the matter of the universe to reorganize to match the chemistry of your body. Collapsing the wave function, applied observer effect. To understand how this electromagnetic signature alters your destiny, we must abandon Newtonian laws and dive into subatomic behavior. At a quantum level, the universe is not composed of solid things. It is composed of a unified field of energy and infinite overlapping possibilities. In quantum physics, this is illustrated through the double-slit experiment. Before being observed, a subatomic particle does not exist in a specific place. It exists in all possible places, simultaneously, as a probability wave. But at the exact instant, a consciousness intervenes and observes that wave. The infinitude vanishes. The wave collapses. It condenses into a single material particle and adopts a fixed position in space and time. The consciousness of the observer forces energy to become matter. Transfer this principle to the wide screen of your own life. In the quantum field, a reality where you experience perfect health already exists. All possibilities exist simultaneously. There is a reality where your project triumphs and where you experience true love. Why are you not experiencing them? Because the consciousness with which you observe your life is repeatedly collapsing the wave of failure, disease, and stagnation. If you wake up every morning, look in the mirror, remember your past traumas, feel frustration, and anticipate a difficult day, you are the ultimate quantum observer. You are fixing the lens of your consciousness on lack. Your intention, colored by the magnetic emotion of fear, collapses the wave into the same reality as yesterday. To manifest a new destiny, you must change how you observe. You must withdraw your attention from the 3D world of the senses, close your eyes, descend to alpha or theta waves, and become pure consciousness. From that deep void, you use the trinity of your intelligence, brain, gut, and heart. In that state of zero cognitive friction, you become a different observer. You collapse a new wave. And the matter of the universe, obeying the unbreakable laws of physics, has no choice but to restructure synchronicities and opportunities so that they collide with you in the physical dimension. 4. The art of letting go of resistance, the paradox of detachment. This is where the ego rebels. If electrical intention and magnetic emotion are the motor of creation, the desperation to see the result is the handbrake. We live in a culture of hyper-control. We believe that to make something happen, we must force it, manipulate the environment, and wear ourselves out. This approach requires an immense expenditure of thermal energy. In the internal Feng dimension, forcing results creates massive turbulent flow. When you project your intention and then open your eyes obsessed, asking, "When will it arrive?" you have destroyed your own creation. In the moment you doubt, your electromagnetic state changes. You abandon the frequency of gratitude, which dictates it is done, and violently return to the frequency of scarcity, which dictates you lack. Your heart turns off its magnetic field, and the survival amygdala turns back on. The mastery of the void. Ancient wisdoms have taught us the law of detachment. In quantum terms, detachment does not mean you don't care about the result. It means your current emotional state no longer depends on the result. It is the supreme paradox of the universe. You can only attract that on which you do not emotionally depend. If you manage to generate the elevated emotion of abundance in your chest, you realize you have already obtained the reward. Your body already feels healthy and infinite in this precise millisecond. You don't need the external event to be happy because the chemistry of your blood is already experiencing happiness. By reaching this state of self-induced fullness, you completely let go of resistance. You stop trying to control the how and the when. That is the task of the quantum field, which possesses an organizational intelligence billions of times superior to your analytical brain. Your only job is to keep the signal pure. When you deliver your intention to the void and trust absolutely in the cosmic information network, you enter grace. Things begin to manifest in your life with astonishing fluidity, often in ways much more majestic and unexpected than your limited frontal lobe could have ever imagined. Of applied quantum technology, the coherence protocol. Manifestation theory demands rigorous somatic discipline. We are altering the hardware of reality. For your intention not to be a mere daydream, it must become an electromagnetic practice. Below, we distill the physics of creation into a 4-step protocol to collapse the quantum wave at will. Step 1. The 3-dimensional disengagement, entering the void. You cannot create a new reality if your brain is connected to the current one. The practice. Sit in silence. Close your eyes. Stop thinking of yourself as a physical body or of the room you are in. Concentrate only on the dark, empty space behind your eyelids. The geometry. You are forcing your brainwaves to descend to theta. By disconnecting from the environment, your brain stops collapsing the wave of your daily reality. You become no one, nowhere, at no time. You are pure consciousness floating in the field of all possibilities. Step 2. The electrical sewing, the architect's design. In this fertile void, you introduce the new information. The practice. Visualize the event you desire. But do not see it as a distant observer. Associate yourself with the image. See it through your own eyes in the first person. Define the crucial details, but keep the image simple and resounding. The geometry. The frontal lobe turns on, sending an ordered electrical charge toward the quantum field. You are selecting one probability wave out of a billion options, pointing your cognitive laser beam toward it. Step 3. The toroidal magnetism, raising the charge. Thought is the vehicle. Now you must turn on the gravity engine. The practice. While holding the vision, you must force your body to feel the emotion of that future right now. Invoke ecstatic joy, unshakable peace, or deep gratitude. Feel that emotion expand from your chest, warming your organs. The geometry. Your heart responds by expanding its toroidal field to maximum amplitude. Your blood plasma structures into perfect hexagons, storing the vibrational signature of your new reality. You have created a hyper-coherent transmission antenna. The quantum magnet is on. Step 4. The radical surrender, releasing the seed. Manifestation dies if you dig it up to see if the root grew. The practice. End with total surrender. Send a final affirmation to the somatic universe. I trust this intelligence. It is done. Open your eyes and continue your day operating from the energy of one who has already received. The geometry. You are eliminating friction. By not trying to control synchronicities, the vagus nerve relaxes, keeping communication open between your three brains. You sustain the frequency of the result without contaminating it with the anxiety of waiting. The true purpose of magnetism. By mastering the magnetism of intention, you understand that the failures and loops of pain of your past were not punishments, but quantum collapses created by your own electromagnetic ignorance. You have recovered the conductor's baton. Manifesting objects is only the side effect of the true treasure. The supreme treasure is who you have had to become to achieve that manifestation. You have had to purge your blood of fear chemistry, discipline the fragmented attention of your brain, and open the vault of your heart to emit unconditional compassion. You are the sacred technology designed to evolve. But as you become a high-power magnet, remember that energy needs space to land in your psyche. If your mind is cluttered with broken commitments and useless thought loops, the new reality will not find a place to anchor, no matter how strong the magnetic attraction is. Clear the space for the new. Chapter 7. Psychic Feng Shui, Ordering the Mental Space. In the previous chapters, we have built a formidable understanding of your internal architecture. You have learned to demolish the old neuronal highways of pain, to navigate the depths of your brainwaves, to rewrite the expression of your genetic code through epigenetics, and to unify the triune intelligence of your brain, heart, and gut. You have even crossed the quantum threshold, discovering how the fusion of a clear electrical intention and an elevated magnetic emotion has the power to collapse the vastness of the unified field into tangible three-dimensional events. You are, without a doubt, the architect of your own reality. But there is a universal law. This law governs both the construction of cathedrals and the manifestation of miracles. The new cannot enter where the old occupies all the space. Imagine for a moment that you inherit a mansion of incomparable architectural beauty. Its large windows are designed to let in the golden light of dawn, and its halls have perfect acoustics. But when you open the door, you discover the mansion is crammed with trash to the ceiling. There are stacks of old newspapers, broken furniture blocking the hallways, rotting food on the tables, and a cacophony of old radios turned on at the same time, each tuned to a different station of static. This mansion is your own mind. No matter how beautiful the original design of the mansion is, in that state it is uninhabitable. The flow of energy is strangled, the light cannot enter, the air is unbreathable, and the vast majority of humanity lives in exactly this state of invisible compulsive hoarding. In this 7th chapter, we will move spatial ordering. We will apply this ancient and sacred science to the most intimate and saturated terrain, your psyche. We will discover that thought has mass and occupies electromagnetic space. We will understand how unclosed cycles and resentments act as background applications that relentlessly drain your vital battery. And most importantly, we will learn to cultivate psychic Feng Shui, applying the technology of the creative void to return breadth, resonance, and geometric peace to your mental space. It is time to clear the internal rooms to allow the manifestation of your true potential as a quantum creator of your life. 1. The spatial dimension of thought, electromagnetic chaos. The fundamental error we make when evaluating our mental health is considering thoughts to be ethereal, ghosts without substance that appear and disappear in an infinite vacuum. We believe that we can harbor an unlimited amount of worries, pending tasks, and anxieties without there being a real physical cost. But quantum physics and neuroscience teach us otherwise. As we have established, each thought is an electrical event. It requires the coordinated firing of thousands of neurons, the exchange of sodium and potassium ions across cell membranes, and the massive consumption of glucose and oxygen transported by your bloodstream. A thought is energy in action, and in the material universe, energy requires space. Your brain possesses a limited cognitive bandwidth, known in psychology as working memory. It is the mental space available to process information in the present moment. When you fill this space with constant rumination, you fail. You drastically reduce your brain's ability to perceive opportunities in the environment, solve problems, or connect with the quantum field. To illustrate the cost of mental clutter, we can borrow the concept of information entropy developed by Claude Shannon, which measures the level of uncertainty or chaos in a system. It is mathematically expressed as Changchelad sum paited log 2 pi, where $2 is entropy and p $2 is the probability of a specific event. When your mind is full of hundreds of possible future catastrophes, your clarity collapses. The entropy of your nervous system skyrockets. Your brain becomes a storm of noise. In this state of high mental entropy, conscious manifestation is impossible. If you try to emit the clear electrical signal of a new destination, but your mind is full of noise and clutter, your signal is lost in the static. To have your intention act as a laser, you must first clear the electromagnetic space in your head. 2. Closing cycles and open windows, the Zeigarnik effect. In classic Feng Shui, a door that cannot be fully opened or a hallway blocked by furniture creates what is called sha qi, or lethal and stagnant energy. In the topography of your mind, sha qi is generated through unclosed cycles. In the 1920s, Bluma Zeigarnik made a discovery while observing waiters in Vienna. She noticed waiters could remember incredibly complex orders from tables that had not yet paid. However, the instant the bill was settled and the table was emptied, the waiter forgot the order completely. From this was born the Zeigarnik effect. The mind is programmed to remember incomplete tasks but forgets finished ones. Background applications. Think of your mobile phone. If you open 50 different applications and close none, all of them will continue running in the background. Although you are looking at a single app on the screen, the other 49 are actively consuming your device's RAM, using the processor and draining the battery at an alarming speed. Soon the phone will heat up, slow down, and eventually turn off. Your human brain operates under the same thermodynamic principle. Each unclosed cycle in your life is an application running in the background of your psyche. That difficult conversation you've been avoiding, the creative project you left half done, the work email you read Friday afternoon but decided not to answer until Monday, the promises you made to yourself that you systematically break. Each of these open psychic windows generates a constant voltage leak. Your subconscious has to spend real metabolic energy to keep that information alive in working memory. The somatic cost of stagnation. The danger of these open windows is not only psychological, it is deeply somatic. The mind does not distinguish between the threat of a physical predator and the threat of an important task you are postponing. Both generate unresolved stress. When you accumulate cycles, the hypothalamus maintains a drip of cortisol. This chronic low-grade inflammation destroys your plasma's hexagonal crystal, hardens your fascial tensegrity network, and disconnects the communication of your vagus nerve. Mental clutter literally ages you and makes you sick. To restore your creative power, you must execute a brutal audit of your mental space. Closing cycles is the most important act of quantum hygiene you can perform. It does not mean you must finish everything you started. It means you must make a conscious and definitive decision about each element. Either you finish it, delegate it, or discard it forever. Doing so frees up RAM and restores energy. To emotional clutter, resentment as toxic waste. If pending tasks are the equivalent of having clothes strewn on your mansion's floor, resentment is the equivalent of having nuclear waste leaking into the foundations. Feng Shui teaches us that the objects we keep in our house act as memory anchors. In mental space, grudges are the most toxic objects. Many people cling to their resentment as if it were a shield of honor or a trophy of their victimhood. We believe, from the ego's ignorance, that by hating the person who hurt us, we are punishing them. But at a biological and quantum level, the mind does not project hate outward without first soaking in it inside. As we learned in mental epigenetics, each time you review the story of your victimization, your brain releases the same toxic neuropeptides it produced the day the event occurred. You are forcing your cells to relive the trauma every day of your life. Resentment is the act of drinking poison and waiting for the other to die. Forgiveness as geometric emptying. In quantum biology, forgiveness has absolutely nothing to do with morality, religion, or absolution of the other. Forgiveness is a purely selfish and mathematical technology. It is the definitive act of spatial cleaning. To forgive is to make the architectural decision that you will no longer allow a past event space. You decide that the past will no longer occupy premium space on your mind's hard drive. It is disconnecting your vital battery's cables from the ghost of the person who hurt you. When you forgive, you release energy stuck in the fascial knot of trauma. Breathing descends to the belly. HRV recovers its golden pulse. By sweeping resentment out of your psychic basement, you create an immense luminous void in the center of your chest. And it is exactly in this void where the higher frequency of love, gamma intuition, and the manifestation of your highest desires can, at last, anchor and materialize into your reality. 4. The information diet and sensory silence. We cannot talk about ordering mental space without addressing the main source of contemporary pollution, the total war for your attention. Humans did not evolve to process global tragedy, the opinions of millions of strangers, and hyper-edited images of perfect lives simultaneously through a screen. The tech industry, media, and social networks operate under an economic model that literally feeds on your consciousness. Their algorithms are designed to keep you in a perpetual state of amygdala excitation, fear, outrage, envy. Every time you scroll, you let strangers walk through your mental temple. You are consuming informational junk food that lacks biophotons, light, and is plagued by entropy and geometric chaos. In music, notes have no meaning without the silent space between them. In architecture, a room is useful for the empty space it delimits. Your mental power lies in the quality of silence. Silence as a creative void. Psychic Feng Shui requires the non-negotiable practice of information fasting. Just as the body needs periods without solid food to activate autophagy, the brain needs sensory silence to activate the glymphatic system. In deep silence, the brain pumps fluid through neuronal tissue, washing away metabolic toxins. Silence is not the absence of sound, it is the presence of your own being. When you turn off the TV and put away the mobile phone, the ego will initially rebel. But if you sustain that void, the turbulence will settle. Brain waves will descend toward alpha. You will hear the crystalline whisper of your intuition. 5. The architecture of psychic boundaries. A palace without doors is a public square exposed to vandalism. Ordering mental space also implies defining strictly who and what has permission to enter. This leads us to the mastery of setting boundaries. In our culture, we often confuse kindness with permeability, We believe being good means being always available. From electromagnetic physics, this is suicide. If your heart is trying to generate a coherent toroidal field of gratitude, but you allow vampiric people to chronically discharge their density into your auric field, your signal will break. You are like a tuned fork hit by detuned hammers. You will lose resonance. The sovereignty of no. Psychic Feng Shui demands that you become the absolute guardian of your front door. Saying no is a complete sentence and a survival technology. Setting boundaries is not an act of malicious selfishness. It is an act of energetic sovereignty. It means you value the ecosystem of your conscious matter. When you say no to a social commitment you don't want to attend, you are preserving your electrical voltage. A firm no to the outside is an expansive yes to your own inner temple's integrity. By raising these electromagnetic walls, your mind becomes safe. Perception and healing can then truly begin. 6. Cleaning technologies, the void protocol. The philosophy of mental order must land in daily practices. It is not enough to understand that your mind is cluttered. You must grab the broom. Below, I give you 3 essential technologies to restore your psyche's feng shui and recover your cognitive bandwidth. A. The cerebrosomatic void, brain dump. Working memory was designed to process the present, not store shopping lists. The practice. Once a week, sit with paper and pen. For 15 minutes, write everything occupying your attention, tasks, fears, grudges. Dump the chaos. Then process the list. Assign dates to real tasks and cross out things you can't control. The biological effect. You have taken apps out of the psychic background and crystallized them in matter. Seeing them objectively relaxes your amygdala. The Zeigarnik effect stops because the brain recognizes the info is safe and organized externally. Fascial tension in the neck and shoulders decreases instantly. P. The twilight digital fast, sealing the sanctuary. LED screens emit blue light that destroys melatonin and alters your magnetic field symmetry. The practice. Decree the last 2 hours before sleep as stimulus-free territory. Turn off Wi-Fi and put the phone in another room. Read a paper book or stretch your fascia, helical movement, under warm lamps. The biological effect. By cutting hyperinformation, you allow the pineal gland to initiate the deep sleep cascade. Your brain crosses the bridge from alpha to theta without traumatic interference. You protect the entrance to your psychic basement, ensuring only coherent info passes during vital delta sleep hours. See the loop closing ceremony, the electromagnetic cut. For emotional drainage, apply the technology of the final decision. The practice. Identify your 2 biggest energy leaks, a postponed task and a resented situation. Take radical action in 24 hours. Do or cancel the task. For resentment, visualize a dark cord connecting you to that person. Mentally cut it. Say, I release you to your destiny and I reclaim my vital energy. The biological effect. You are sealing the leaks in your toroidal field. The energy charge you were investing in keeping that toxic connection or latent anxiety alive returns to you as a torrent of thermal vitality in your chest. Chapter 8. Cellular Telepathy, the Language of Conscious Matter. If you have strictly applied the discipline of the previous chapter, your psyche's interior is no longer a mansion cluttered with debris and open windows draining your voltage. You have cultivated the creative void. You have aligned your triune intelligence and understood that your perception has absolute authority to rewrite your DNA. However, observing the majesty of this design, an inevitable biophysical question arises. How exactly does this information travel? Classic biology taught us that the body communicates through the nervous and endocrine systems. They tell us that a thought sends an electrical impulse or that a gland secretes a hormone that travels. While these mechanisms are real and vital, they are astonishingly slow. Chemical diffusion and traditional nerve conduction take milliseconds or even seconds to cross the body. But when facing imminent danger, or when a virtuoso pianist plays at breakneck speed, your 37 trillion cells react simultaneously and in perfect coordination. There is no delay. Your big toe knows what your prefrontal cortex is thinking at the exact instant the thought is born. This quantum synchrony cannot be explained by slow chemical messaging. For life to operate at its maximum level of coherence, conscious matter does not send letters by mail, it communicates by telepathy. In this 8th chapter, we will unveil the hidden network of your biology. We will leave the slowness of chemistry to enter the speed of light. We will discover that your body possesses an internal fiber optic system, a crystalline network that uses sound, light, and vibration for instant communication across your entire being. We will learn to listen to the somatic dialogue before the analytical mind contaminates it. And I will give you the master keys to use the imposition of the word and directed intention to heal, regenerate, and transform the most stagnant corners of your physical topography. It is the awakening of the biological light network. 1. The inner fiber optic network, the hardware of light. To understand cellular telepathy, we must shift our focus from neurons to the scaffolding that holds everything, the extracellular matrix and fascial connective tissue. As explored, fascia is not an inert wrapper. It is an immense and uninterrupted three-dimensional tensegrity network that penetrates every cell of your body. But its structural function is only half the story. At a molecular level, fascia is predominantly composed of a triple helix of collagen. Collagen is not just a strong protein, it is a piezoelectric semiconductor. In solid-state physics, a piezoelectric crystal generates an electric charge when subjected to mechanical pressure. Your fascial matrix is a massive liquid crystal. Every time you move, every time your heart beats, or even every time the diaphragm descends as you breathe, you are stretching and compressing these collagen fibers, generating microscopic flashes of bioelectricity that travel at the speed of light throughout the entire body. The 33-node vertebral antenna. At the epicenter of this fascial fiber optic network stands the main mast of your human architecture, the spinal column. Mechanistic medicine describes it simply as a stack of bones to protect the spinal cord. But in quantum biology, the spine is the central hardware of cellular telepathy and conscious information flow. It functions literally as a 33-node vertebral antenna, your 33 vertebrae, counting the sacral and coccygeal regions. This antenna is not rigid. It is a harmonic resonator. It is bathed in cerebrospinal fluid, a highly conductive fluid, and wrapped by the dura mater, the densest layer of fascia in the body. When your brain generates an electrical thought and your heart emits a magnetic emotion, that field is not dispersed. It is instantly captured by the 33-node vertebral antenna. Each node acts as an amplifier and transducer, taking the frequency of your consciousness and emitting it through nerve roots to the periphery. It is an internal broadcasting system of unfathomable mathematical perfection. If the antenna is misaligned by poor posture, or if the fascia is crystallized by fear, the signal is distorted. Telepathy becomes static. But when the spine is erect and flexible, the antenna transmits the order to the cells in a nanosecond. 2. Biophotons, the language of conscious matter. If the fascial matrix and the vertebral antenna are the hardware, what is the software? What exactly travels through this crystalline network? The revolutionary answer was delivered by German biophysicist Fritz Albert Popp. He discovered that all living cells emit light particles. He called them biophotons. Your body is literally glowing in the dark. This light is not a random thermal byproduct. It is highly coherent, similar to a laser beam. In quantum physics, a photon's energy is related to its frequency, described by Planck's equation. Seht intimate U, where d out is quantum energy, t out is Planck's constant, and u out is frequency. Biophotons operate as hyper-compressed information packets. Cells use this light to communicate their health status and repair needs. And how does this light travel without dissipating in the body's darkness? It travels through blood plasma and interstitial fluid, but specifically through structured water, H3O2. The crystalline geometry of plasma acts like the reflective walls of a fiber optic cable, bouncing biophotons and channeling them without loss of information. When your mind visualizes healing, that frequency is captured by the spine, translated into piezoelectricity, and converted into coherent biophotons. This light bathes stagnant cells, delivering the light-based instruction manual for their repair. This is called conscious matter. You are not a piece of meat governed by chance. You are a galaxy of cells interconnected by an ocean of light, waiting for your sovereign orders to reorganize and thrive. The somatic dialogue, listening before thinking. Cellular telepathy is bidirectional. Just as you emit orders, your cells send you constant information. They have instinctive wisdom about what is beneficial or harmful. However, the modern human has lost the ability to listen to this direct line. We live in a state of somatic anesthesia and spiritual latency. When the mind screams about debts and social media, the subtle telepathic whisper of conscious matter is drowned out. The body will try to communicate gently at first. A slight tingle, a hollow feeling in the stomach, or a sudden change in hand temperature. These are somatic markers of your internal network. They are your fiber optic network reporting that the environment's field is interfering with your own Feng dimension. But because you ignore the logical whisper of cellular telepathy, because you are busy thinking, the body has no choice but to turn up the volume. The whisper becomes pain and eventually pathology. The state of quantum zen. To hear the somatic dialogue, you must reach the state we call quantum zen. This is not just passive meditation, it is a state of biological alertness and absolute receptivity. It is the moment you silence internal dialogue, slow your brainwaves to alpha, and bring 100% of your presence inside your body. In this state, you stop treating your body as a beast of burden and treat it as an oracle. Before taking a 3D decision, you enter quantum zen and present the option to the fascial network. You do not analyze pros and cons on paper. You observe the micro-response of your cells to the frequency of that choice. If the matter contracts, the oracle has spoken. That choice is destructive to your ecosystem. If the matter expands with a wave of heat and lightness, the oracle approves. The quantum master obeys this somatic telepathy without hesitation, even if the analytical brain cannot understand the decision at that moment. 4. The imposition of the word, directing cellular regeneration. If listening is half the dialogue, the other half is speaking. Once you have cleared the background noise and entered the silence of quantum zen, you acquire the geometric authority to dictate your biology's behavior. Here we enter the ancient technology of cymatics and the power of the word. Cymatics is the science of how sound waves structure physical matter. When you emit a sound, you create a mechanical pressure wave. Since your body is 70% water and plasma, it is the perfect medium for acoustic resonance. Your vocal cords generate waves that physically vibrate the 33-node antenna. This sound propagates through the structured water of your matrix. In ancient traditions, creation begins with a sound. In the beginning was the word, or the sound Om. This is the instruction manual of conscious matter. Sound organizes the liquid crystal and dictates its geometric alignment and function. The directed conversation. Most people communicate with their bodies using the word of victimhood. They say, "My back is killing me," or "I have a slow metabolism." When you say these words, the 33-node antenna captures the vibration and frustration. It transmits this to the network. Biophotons become chaotic, and the water loses structure. The cells in those areas obey the telepathic order. They inflame and deteriorate. You are cursing your own biology's geometry. The imposition of the word requires reversing this process through radical responsibility. It means using your physical voice and mental laser focus to direct high-coherence frequencies. If you have a weakened organ, you must close your eyes, locate the zone, and speak directly to the intelligence of those cells. Emit an acoustic frequency from your throat, a word of power, or a sustained deep tone, toning, while directing all the magnetic force of your heart toward that specific area. You tell the matter, "I see you. Receive this light. Return to the original blueprint of geometric perfection." By combining electrical thought, magnetic emotion, and mechanical vibration, you generate the ultimate vortex of regeneration. You are forcing photons to align in the syntropy of absolute health. 5. The epigenetic impact of coherent telepathy. When communication between the brain and conscious matter is established under Feng dimension laws, the impact reaches the nucleus of your cells. It rewrites the system's epigenetics. The body does not get sick because it was designed to fail. It gets sick because cells lose connection with the network. A cancer cell, in quantum terms, is a cell that has lost telepathy with the community. It has become deaf to biophotons and electromagnetic signals due to toxicity or emotional trauma. By not receiving signals of growth or apoptosis, the cell panics, isolates itself, and multiplies selfishly to survive. Restoring cellular telepathy is the act of reconnecting rebel cells to the central network. When you bathe these cells in liquid light and high coherence frequencies, the structured water around them recovers its exclusion zone geometry. Membrane receptors reopen. The cell hears the voice of the whole again. It understands the survival war is over and, guided by the master intelligence, resumes normal functions or recycles peacefully. This is the mechanism behind spontaneous remissions. They are the biophysical result of a human who has assumed command of the quantum keyboard and ordered systemic order. 6. Practical technologies of cellular telepathy. Theoretical communication is dazzling, but to leave spiritual latency, you must anchor knowledge in repeatable practices. Below is the 3-step protocol to activate and calibrate the fiber optic network of your biological avatar, allowing you to operate as a conscious architect of your own matter. A morphogenetic resonance scan, tuning the receiver. Before transmitting, you must clean the static and listen to your trillions of inhabitants. The practice: lie in total darkness and silence. Scan your body from feet to head. Ask internally, what story is this tissue holding? Wait for the somatic response: a pulse, heat, or a sudden image. The geometry. You are training the brain to decode biophoton pulses emitted by the fascia. By honoring the response without trying to change it immediately, you validate the line. You demonstrate to your conscious matter that the king has come to listen, establishing the trust necessary for healing. B. Antenna tuning, tensegrity of the central axis. The 33-node antenna cannot transmit clearly if it is compressed or dehydrated. The practice: perform the central axis adjustment. Stand and root your feet. Perform gentle, snake-like helical movements with your entire spine, starting from the tailbone. Imagine spinal fluid rising as silver light. Align your head perfectly over the heart and feel the mast stretch toward the sky. The geometry. This spiral movement is a biomechanical reset. It lubricates discs, decompresses nerve roots, and tensions the peripheral network in perfect tensegrity. Your hardware is now optimized for electricity. See the photonic command, acoustic intentional surgery. This is the active technology of regeneration for diseased or blocked areas. The practice. Once the antenna is tuned, focus your attention laser on the area. Inhale deep into the gut, collecting prana. As you exhale, impose the word. Emit a deep A tone and visualize golden light saturating the zone. The geometry. You have orchestrated the triune intelligence. Your brain directs the spatial plane, your heart provides magnetic gravity, and your voice supplies piezoelectric pressure. This harmonic bombardment physically breaks trauma bonds, forcing water to restructure into H3O2 and rebooting epigenetics. Chapter 9. Hacking Simulated Reality, Attention and Focus. We have reached a crucial stage in the mapping of your own consciousness. Through our journey, you have rebuilt your inner temple. You have cleaned the psychic basements where your shadow was hidden. You have tuned the trinity of your intelligence, brain, heart, and gut, and you have awakened the crystalline telepathy of your cellular network. You have discovered, with paradigm-shifting wonder, that your electrical intention and magnetic emotion possess the absolute power to reorganize conscious matter and collapse the vastness of the quantum field into a tangible reality. You are, by biological and cosmic right, a creator of realities. You are a holographic projector. You are a projector walking through the third dimension. However, possessing a high-tech projector is useless if someone else is choosing the movie you are going to project. And this is the brutal, cold, and undeniable truth of the era in which you live. You are immersed in the quietest and most devastating war in human history. It is not a war for territories, oil, or mineral resources. It is a war for the most valuable, scarce, and powerful resource in the entire known universe, your attention. Modern society, with its algorithms, its flashing screens, and its narratives of perpetual crisis, is not a neutral environment. It is a simulated reality. It is a matrix designed with neurobiological engineering precision to kidnap the laser beam of your focus. In this 9th chapter, we are going to discover how the system hacks your biology to keep you in a state of spiritual latency. We will integrate 2 masterful approaches to regain your sovereignty: tactical decoding speed. We will combine it with deep philosophical contemplation. And finally, I will give you the access codes to reach the ultimate state of mental mastery: quantum zen. Get ready to regain the helm of your simulator. 1. The war for your bandwidth, hyperconsumption and rumination. To hack the system, you must first understand how the system hacks you. Quantum physics establishes that energy flows where attention is directed. That which you focus on expands. That which you observe collapses from a wave of possibility into a material particle. Tech megacorporations operate under a model of constant hyperstimulus. It is a dynamic of frenetic consumption and instant gratification, a focus on hyper-productivity and speed very characteristic of US market dynamics. They know that if they manage to capture your attention for 5 seconds with a notification, they have managed to extract a fraction of your electromagnetic energy, the theft of quantum energy. Your analytical brain has a limited bandwidth. Every time you allow your attention to be dragged away by an irrelevant external stimulus, a voltage leak occurs in your biology. Your 33-node vertebral antenna stops transmitting the coherent signal of your own soul and begins to retransmit the static of the environment. Your heart leaves its toroidal state of coherence and restarts the engines of stress and survival. The Feng dimension of your mind will be cluttered with computer debris, opinions of strangers, tragedies you cannot solve, and artificially implanted desires for consumption. This fragmentation of attention strips you of your creative power. If your focus is divided in 1,000 directions, your electrical intention becomes a dim light bulb, unable to illuminate your own path, let alone collapse a new quantum reality. You become a biological battery, feeding the hologram of scarcity and collective fear. To escape this simulation, you cannot fight using its rules. You must change the game entirely to focus as a quantum laser beam. The difference between a 100-watt incandescent bulb and a 100-watt laser is purely geometric. The bulb emits light chaotically in all directions and multiple frequencies. It barely illuminates a small room. The laser instead emits photons traveling in the same direction and in perfect coherent synchrony. It can cut steel or measure the exact distance between the Earth and the Moon. Your attention is the light. Focus is the laser. When you learn to concentrate your consciousness on a single point without blinking or deviating, the resistance of physical matter yields. The 3D universe begins to melt before the pressure of focus. The physics of sustained attention. At a neurological level, laser focus stimulates the massive production of myelin, the insulating layer that covers your neuronal axons. When you keep your attention fixed on an elevated vision, the healing of your body, or the creation of a masterpiece, the neuronal highways for that reality thicken and become superconductive. At a quantum level, sustained focus freezes the collapse of the wave function. Instead of collapsing random realities every millisecond due to a scattered mind, you keep the quantum field fixed on the possibility you have chosen. You are forcing atoms to align with your decree. But this requires mastery of non-reaction. 3. The psychic bunker and the deep contemplation approach. To protect the laser of your attention, you must build an impregnable psychic bunker. And here is where true mastery requires a drastic change of pace. To counteract the hyper-reactivity of attention consumerism, we must invoke a much older approach, characteristic of the great contemplative traditions. This resonates deeply with the elegance of existentialism and French contemplative thought. We are talking about the art of the flaneur of consciousness, the ability to observe existence without the frenetic urgency to consume it, label it, or react to it. It is the mastery of the silent witness. The information diet and cognitive elegance. Society pushes you to have an instant opinion on every global event, to react to every stimulus with indignation or desire. This makes you an electromagnetic slave. True cognitive elegance resides in retention. To shield your psychic bunker, you must implement a relentless information diet. Your brain is a temple. Rigorously question what images, what music, and what narratives you allow to cross the threshold of your perception. If a piece of information does not raise your frequency, instruct your intellect, or beautify your soul, you must deny it entry. Deep contemplation is the ultimate resistance against the simulated reality. When you sit in a cafe, walk in a forest, or simply look out the window and decide not to take out your mobile phone to document it, you are declaring your sovereignty. You are savoring the texture of reality. In this contemplative state, the analytical mind slows down and crosses the bridge of alpha waves. By observing the beauty of a tiny detail, a falling leaf, the architecture of a building, without trying to alter it, your toroidal magnetic field expands effortlessly. You stop being a victim reacting to the simulation and become the artist who contemplates it. You recover your vital energy because you are no longer spilling it. 4. The state of quantum zen, the eye of the hurricane. The perfect integration between the unwavering laser of attention and the deep elegance of contemplation gives rise to the ultimate biological and spiritual state. We will call it quantum zen. It is not the abandonment of the material world. It is absolute mastery over it. It is the state in which you walk through noise. You deal with financial crises and navigate the complexities of human relationships, but you do it from an inner calm so vast and dense that nothing can alter your golden pulse. You are the eye of the hurricane. Around you, the matrix of society spins with fury, but you, at the exact center of your own geometry, are in silence. Your nervous system operates under the parasympathetic grace of absolute fluidity, hacking the matrix with non-resistance. How do you hack a simulation designed to feed on your stress and fear? By stop playing its game. The quantum Zen architect understands that anything he offers resistance to will persist. If you fight fiercely against a corrupt system or a debt, you are collapsing the quantum wave of that same struggle. You are giving the matrix exactly what it wants, your electrical and magnetic energy. You are making the wall more solid by pushing it. The supreme hack is to withdraw your voltage from the external illusion and redirect it toward the internal vision. When a problem appears to steal your focus, you do the opposite. You relax, you descend to the belly, you feel your gravity, you recognize the illusion for what it is, a program trying to extract your light, and with absolute quantum coldness, you withdraw your attention. You turn the projector of your mind toward the image of the solution, toward the frequency of love and power. And by ceasing to feed the problem with the electricity of your fear, the simulation suffers a glitch. The problem runs out of fuel. Reality collapses and reorders itself to match the new and powerful signal of your sovereign indifference toward chaos. You become the programmer again. 5. Zero friction in conscious matter. When you operate from quantum Zen, the relationship between your consciousness and your physical body reaches apotheosis. The conscious matter that composes your trillions of cells stops being bombarded by environmental static. By protecting your focus, you protect the hexagonal architecture of your blood plasma, H3O2. Liquid light flows through your veins without finding the chemical friction of anxiety. The 33-node antenna of your spine no longer transmits terror alarms induced by a screen, but the serene confidence of the creator void. In this state of zero friction, you age slower. Your immune system operates with lethal efficiency. Your decisions are no longer dictated by the desire to fit into a sleeping society. Your decisions emerge as clean and crystalline imperatives from the intuitive heart and the instinctive gut. You are free. Not because you have escaped the world, but because the world has lost its ability to program you. 6. High-voltage focus technologies training the laser. The state of quantum Zen and the shielding of your psychic bunker require tactical training. Your analytical brain, addicted to hyperstimulus for years, will kick and scream when you take away its dose of constant distraction. You must rehabilitate the muscle of your will. Here are the 3 bioquantum technologies. A. The dopamine fast, resetting the receiver. To enjoy deep contemplation, your brain must heal from its tolerance to artificial pleasure spikes. The practice. Dedicate 1 day a week to total abstinence from digital stimuli. No social media, no news, no lyrics in music. Let yourself be bored. Limit yourself to reading, walking, and being in silence. The geometry. Hyperstimulus burns the dopamine receptors in your brain, leaving you apathetic and unable to sustain attention. This fast forces your receptors to recalibrate. You reset the chemistry of your frontal lobe. You will regain cutting mental clarity and a deep sense of geometric presence. Quantum Zen contemplation, observation without collapse. This practice trains your mind to be a sovereign witness of the world, breaking emotional reactivity. The practice. Sit in a public place. Look at the world passing by. Keep your consciousness anchored in your breath while observing people and noise. When your mind judges, interrupt it and return to observation. The geometry. You are training prefrontal inhibition. You are teaching your brain it can receive info without triggering a stress response. You are cultivating the mastery of the quantum flaneur, being fully immersed in the beauty and tragedy of existence without it tearing a single volt from your field. C. One-eye retention, single-point focus, the ultimate tool for forging laser attention and collapsing the desired reality wave. The practice. In the dark, light a single candle. Sit 1 meter away. Fix your gaze exactly on the tip of the flame. Do not blink unless strictly necessary. Maintain your attention nailed to the flame despite distractions. The geometry. This ancient exercise, Trataka, is the hypertrophy of attention. It forces brainwaves into a punctual gamma synchronization. It groups all your scattered electromagnetic energy and concentrates it into a single ray. One who can hold focus here possesses the power to pierce the veil of simulation. Chapter 10. The Illuminated Mind, the State of Zero Cognitive Friction. We have reached the pinnacle of our inner mapping. Throughout this work, we have descended into the darkest trenches of biology and human psychology. We have dismantled the old neural highways of pain. We have cleaned the Feng dimension of our mental space by closing the cycles that drained our voltage. We have tamed the fury of the psychic basement, transmuting the shadow into pure vital force. We have learned to hack the simulated reality that tried to steal our focus, and we have tuned the trinity of our intelligence, brain, heart, and gut, so that they operate as a single laser beam of quantum manifestation. Now the temple is clean. The 33-node vertebral antenna is erect and perfectly calibrated. The liquid crystal of your blood flows free of fear chemistry, and your toroid's magnetic field beats with an amazing geometric amplitude. You have definitively emerged from spiritual latency. But what happens when the quantum machine finally operates without resistance? What does consciousness experience when all bottlenecks of trauma and doubt are removed? We enter the domain of the illuminated mind. In this 10th chapter, we will explore the supreme state of human evolution, the state of zero cognitive friction. We will discover what happens when the ego lays down its weapons of survival. We will see the mind become a pristine receiver of cosmic intelligence. We will decode the anatomy of sovereign intuition and learn how the awakened avatar walks through this three-dimensional world, joining the pragmatic urgency of material creation with the unfathomable and elegant existential depth of pure contemplation. 1. Transcending the ego, the end of survival. To cross the threshold into the illuminated mind, we must first pay a final tribute and say goodbye to the guardian that brought us here, the ego. Throughout the history of spirituality and personal development, the ego has been vilified. It has been treated as a demon, an internal enemy to be annihilated, silenced, or destroyed. However, from the perspective of quantum biology, declaring war on your own ego is electromagnetic suicide. You cannot achieve inner peace if you are fighting a battle to the death in your own prefrontal cortex. The ego is not an evil entity. It is a biomechanical survival program. It was formed during your childhood. It formed in those critical moments when your nervous system felt threatened, vulnerable, or unloved. The ego is the fascial tensegrity armor of your psyche. Its job, dictated by evolution, is separation. distinguishing between you and the other, calculating risks, accumulating resources, and defending your identity. The ego thrives on the frequency of high beta waves. It feeds on comparison, linear time, and friction. The voluntary abdication. As long as your physical body harbors unresolved traumas and your blood is saturated with cortisol, the ego will flatly refuse to let go of control. It feels like the only captain capable of navigating a leaking ship. But something miraculous happens when you apply the purification technologies we have studied. When your gut heals and sends signals of unbreakable safety through the vagus nerve, when your heart radiates the coherence of sustained gratitude, and when your mental Feng dimension is so orderly that there are no longer phantom threats lurking in the past or future. In that environment of absolute geometric peace, the ego yields. It looks around and realizes the war is over. In the state of quantum Zen, the ego is not destroyed, it is retired. It becomes a peripheral consultant instead of the chief executive officer. When the ego abdicates, the mind experiences a quantum leap. It stops being a sharp tool designed to attack, defend, and survive. It transforms into a parabolic receiver. The compulsive need to be right, to be offended by others' opinions, or to prove one's worth, evaporates instantly. You realize that defending a fixed identity is as absurd as trying to defend a wave in the middle of the ocean. The massive energy once wasted is released at once. It floods your cerebral cortex with a dazzling voltage. You have transcended personal survival. Now, you are a conduit for cosmic intelligence. 2. The state of zero cognitive friction, the superconductivity of being. In materials physics, there is an extraordinary phenomenon known as superconductivity. When certain materials are cooled to extreme temperatures, they reach a critical state where their electrical resistance drops exactly to zero. In this state, an electric current can flow through a superconducting ring eternally. It flows without losing a single fraction of energy as heat or friction. Furthermore, the material expels any external magnetic field, levitating in perfect harmony, the Meissner effect. The state of illuminated mind is biological superconductivity. Throughout your life in spiritual latency, you have felt cognitive friction. Friction is doubt. It is paralysis by analysis. It is the agonizing gap between what you know you should do and what you finally do. It is the exhaustion of forcing your will against a resisting body, of desiring an abundant future while feeling the terror of scarcity. Each time you experience this, you generate heat. The collapse of doubt. When you reach zero cognitive friction, the gap between intention and action disappears. Thought is born in the void of your frontal lobe. It is instantly validated by the expansion of your gut. It is magnetized milliseconds later by the toroid of your heart. All this occurs at the speed of light. There is no internal committee debating if you are good enough, if you will fail, or if society will judge you. Information does not crash against the blockages of the psychic basement because that space has already been cleaned. Your conscious matter operates in hypercoherence. How does it feel to live in zero friction? It is a physical and psychological lightness difficult to describe with 3D language. It is the eradication of effort. When you move, it seems that space itself moves aside to let you pass. Complex decisions, which used to steal weeks of insomnia, are now resolved in an instant of crystalline clarity. And, just as the superconductor expels toxic magnetic fields, your auric field in zero friction repels external negativity. Crises, others' dramas, and artificial emergencies of the simulated reality slide off your consciousness without penetrating your Feng dimension. You are in the world, but no longer of its density. 3. Sovereign intuition, operating from geometric certainty. The most dazzling consequence of zero cognitive friction is the awakening of sovereign intuition. Modern education has trained us to idolize data accumulation. We believe intelligence is the ability to store facts and deductive logics. But the intellect is only a glorified calculator working with past info. Intuition, instead, is the direct download of information from the unified field of the future and the quantum present. In the state of illuminated mind, your brainwaves experience a sublime communion. You maintain the deep subconscious connection of theta waves while simultaneously producing gamma peaks. This gamma-theta bridge is the electroencephalographic signature of genius, knowing without thinking. Sovereign intuition is the art of knowing without having to think. When the mind becomes a cosmic receiver free of ego static, you gain access to what Carl Jung called the collective unconscious, and what quantum physics calls the zero-point information field. In your daily life, this manifests as certainty. You know the answer to a problem before your brain has finished formulating the equation. You find yourself in a business negotiation, and beyond the words the other person is saying, your 33-node antenna scans their frequency and gives you a flawless, cellular telepathic reading of their integrity. And because this intuition does not come from fear, the ego's voice is always urgent, but from the creator void, its voice is silent, neutral, and absolute. It does not need to convince you with logic. It simply pushes you with the sweeping grace of a river that knows its way to the ocean. You trust the hardware. Operating from sovereign intuition requires maximum trust in your biological technology. It requires you to surrender the desire to control the how and why, to give yourself completely to the majestic what that the universe is revealing to you through your viscera and your heart. 4. The awakened avatar. The final three-dimensional integration. There is a dangerous romanticism in contemporary spiritual circles suggesting that enlightenment is synonymous with evading material reality. We have been sold the image of the mystic retired in a Himalayan cave, disconnected from world affairs, meditating in eternal silence. But this is spiritual fragility. If your electromagnetic coherence can only survive in isolation, then your map still has fissures. The supreme purpose of rebuilding the map, ordering the Feng dimension, and awakening conscious matter is not to escape the human simulation, but to enter it as a master. We call this the awakened avatar. The awakened avatar walks through the noisy streets, runs corporations, raises children, builds wealth, and falls in love, but does so from a fundamental state of quantum zen. He or she flawlessly unites two worlds that seemed irreconcilable. The creator's pragmatic urgency, material engineering. You possess laser focus, iron discipline, the biohacking of quantum manifestation, and the ability to collapse probability waves to build empires or create art that transforms society. You master the material game because you know its geometry. The observer's existential depth, pure contemplation. At the same time, you possess the contemplative elegance of knowing that none of that 3D theater defines your true value. You have the immense freedom to observe the rise and fall of forms without attachment. You know you are the empty space. Molding the matrix with mastery. The awakened avatar does not react to the world. The world responds to the avatar. Since your toroidal field is operating at its maximum magnetic capacity and your electrical thought is sharp as a diamond, you no longer need to manipulate people or force circumstances with physical or verbal aggression. You mold reality through the emanation of your pure presence. When you enter a room, your frequency of zero friction alters the epigenetics and brainwaves of those around you, electromagnetic entrainment. You calm storms without a word. Opportunities and solutions fall into your lap by quantum gravity. The fabric of space and time curves around your coherence. In this state, hard work no longer feels like painful sacrifice, but like a divine game, a geometric dance where you enjoy the process of densifying light into matter, knowing that, win or lose on the board, your throne in infinite consciousness is intact. 5. The Mastery Protocol. Technologies of the Illuminated Mind. Sustaining the illuminated mind in a world designed for distraction requires daily maintenance of the temple. It is not a static destination, but a dynamic balance that must be ridden like a surfer on the quantum wave. To maintain superconductivity, you must adopt advanced disciplines. Here are the 3 definitive superior maintenance technologies. A. The observer's anchor, radical disidentification. The ego will always try to re-enter when the body fatigues. The practice. Multiple times a day in the midst of intense action, invoke a 3-second quantum halt. Shift your attention to the back of your head and then 1 meter behind you. Observe the situation as if watching a movie of yourself. Internally declare, I'm not this body, nor this emotion, nor this thought. I am the unconditioned consciousness observing them. The geometry. This micro-splitting interrupts friction. By withdrawing your identity, you remove oxygen from the inflammatory reaction, keeping the cortex cool and intuitive. The Gamma Invocation, the pulse of genius. To operate from sovereign intuition, you must train your brain to access the gamma-theta bridge at will. The practice. Sit in the shadows. Close your eyes. Visualize a point of dazzling white light in your pineal gland. While breathing deeply in a circular pattern, feel an overwhelming wave of gratitude. Hold that emotion until your body literally vibrates. In that peak, formulate the question or intention. Do not seek the answer. Just drop the stone into the luminous pond of your mind and stay in the void. The geometry. Circular breathing oxygenates plasma, while magnetic emotion expands the toroid. See the quantum command, the imposition of reality. This is the active technology with which the awakened avatar molds the environment. The practice. Faced with an obstacle, do not beg. Enter the quantum Zen state. Visualize the resolution with mathematical clarity. Using your physical voice from the diaphragm, emit the command as an unbreakable law. This cell is in perfect health. This path is open. This reality is collapsed. It is done. The geometry. You are combining the force of the electrical generator, brain, the magnetic motor, heart, and the acoustic pressure wave, voice. This trinity impacts the field with massive electromagnetic pressure. 6. The frequential legacy, emitting the new paradigm. We thus reach the final revelation, the ultimate purpose behind the monumental effort to study, heal, and master the deepest corners of your quantum biology. We have not done this solely to have a more comfortable life. That would be a waste of the immense divine power bestowed upon you. We have done it for the frequential legacy. Science has shown that electromagnetic fields have no physical borders. Your heart emits a toroid that quantumly intertwines with the planet Earth's magnetic field. Each cell of your conscious matter is a node in the infinite network of universal intelligence. While you remained in spiritual latency, trapped on the highways of fear, you were a node contributing to the entropy and density of collective human consciousness. Your silent pain fed the world's fear. But now, as an awakened avatar, you have become a mass anchor of light. By healing your own inner topography, you are cleaning the epigenetic pollution of your ancestors and freeing your descendants from the burden of inherited trauma. By the simple fact of existing in an illuminated state, you are altering the frequency of the global quantum field. You are a cosmic tuning fork. Your presence alone stabilizes the environment. You raise the voltage of those you interact with without them even knowing it. Those who approach you feel the electromagnetic entrainment of your coherence, and subconsciously, their hearts begin to beat to the golden rhythm of your own melody. The return home. Do not look for salvation in the stars, nor wait for an external power to descend to fix humanity's chaos. The power that creates worlds is already flowing through the fractal labyrinth of your own veins. The quantum architect is seated on the throne. Your mind has stopped being a sharp sword keeping you in survival. It has become the majestic receiver of cosmic will. The illusion of separation has collapsed. Form and spirit have merged into a single, unbreakable beat. You have crossed the quantum mirror. You have regained your empire. Now, open your eyes, breathe the miracle, and mold this universe with grace. The masterpiece of your existence has only just begun. Go forth and project your light. Conclusion: the throne of consciousness. We have reached the end of this deep immersion into the architecture of your own existence. Throughout this journey, we have torn the veil of materialistic illusion to reveal the majestic quantum mechanics of your reality. You have discovered that your brain is not your master, but rather an electromagnetic transducer. You have learned that your heart is not a simple hydraulic pump, but a magnetic engine, and that your mental environment, when subjected to the geometric and spatial discipline of your own inner Feng dimension, becomes a temple of light and biological superconductivity. You are now the architect of a new, radiant internal space. The great revelation awaiting at the exact center of this labyrinth is not simply that you possess a powerful mind, but a much more resounding truth. You are not your mind. You are the infinite and silent consciousness that observes it. The mind is simply the instrument, the synthesizer through which you compose your frequency. It is the tool for your three-dimensional experience. When you finally take your place on the throne of consciousness, you stop identifying with the background noise, the doubts, and the old survival programs installed in the psychic basement. You rise to become the supreme architect and the sovereign observer of your life. You are the one who chooses, with absolute intention, which quantum probability wave to collapse into matter. Assuming this throne demands a pact of radical responsibility. From this moment on, you can no longer afford the luxury of harboring thoughts of lack, victimhood, or fear without being aware of their impact. You must recognize their devastating physical and energetic toll. Every frequency you emit, every magnetic emotion you hold in your chest is a building block. With every heartbeat, you are writing the epigenetic code not only of your own cells, but of the human lineage that will follow you. You are a biological transmitter. By ordering and clearing your inner space, you become a cosmic tuning fork that stabilizes and raises the vibration of everyone who enters your field of resonance. Your personal healing and your magnetic coherence are ultimately your greatest act of service to the universe. You are an essential node in the collective web. The theoretical journey has concluded, but the true masterpiece, the total embodiment of this wisdom in your daily life, is only just beginning. Knowledge without somatic and vibrational application is merely an intellectual rumor. Now you possess the technologies, the map, and the legitimate authority to hack the simulation. You have the power to mold your destiny. I invite you, as you finish this chapter or hear the last acoustic resonance of these words, not to run immediately toward the hyper-stimulus of the outside world. Stop. Close your eyes. Feel the weight of your body rooted in the earth and the immense breadth of your chest opening. Feel yourself connecting to the cosmos. Inhale deeply, filling the creative void that you have cultivated with such effort in your psyche, and exhale, letting go of the last trace of your old, limited identity. That pulse you feel vibrating in your chest is not just biology. It is the metronome of creation awaiting your orders. It is the rhythm of existence waiting for your next directive. You have regained command. You are conscious matter, awake, sovereign, and limitless. May every step you take from this day forward be irrefutable proof of the immense and amazing power that always resided within you. You are the master of your own quantum mirror.